keep you company, and I know we have a guest from St. Lucia. And basically, I would like to say, it's always a pleasure, Cecil. You notice I'm always at work? No, you don't have to.
You're too early for that.
No. I want to tell you, I'm always at work.
Mm-hmm.
And always at work on time.
Uh-huh.
I worked for 38 years in the Ministry of Education, and I must tell you, Cecil, I was never late, and never did I take any day off. I just thought I'll just throw it on the table. Make no comment. Make no comment. I just wanted to say that. So you see me at work.
Yes.
I apologize for not being there last Sunday, and I'm here now. I had a reason why I couldn't be with you. Good evening, Cecil.
Good evening to you.
How has it been going for you?
Well, for this week it was great. Thank God. I did all what I had to do, ensured that I accomplish the things that are required of me to accomplish, to do the things that I had to do. Sometimes you do certain things and sometimes people will not be happy about the things that you do. But when you're in management, Brain, you have to do what is required.
One of the things about management, when I always tell you that, Cecil, when the organization fails, the manager is to be blamed. And when the organization succeeds, everyone does it, but it's not the manager.
and I think that I always tell managers, your staff can get vexed if but you cannot get vexed if your staff.
Let me just say before you're going, I'm very pleased to see that work is going on very fast and furious on the construction of the Goodwill Secondary School. I left the guys tonight and they're still at work. That tells
we'll have
you.
some time later to talk about that more.
So my brother, I just wanted to put that on the table.
Yes.
In fact, it's a beautiful day in Dominica. It's very positive to be in the island of Dominica, and I always stay positive and well focused. Good evening,
right.
Cecil. And good evening to your guest.
Well, let us say good evening to our guest. Good evening to you, my good friend Primus.
Hi, good evening, Cecil. Good evening to your guest. It's a pleasure to be on the radio on your Lakou program. It is not my first experience. I remember sometime, was it last year, that you had this lady on and you were discussing matters of culture and Creole, and I happened to tune in and I said, no, I need to call you. And then we spoke I think we were spoken for about half an hour. I think it was last year. So
it was last year.
Dominica is my next. C'est l'autre pays, this is the other country next to my heart. I spent 2 years in Dominica, and it was a great experience, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's a pleasure to be on your program.
Yes, aussi on s'est laissé pour vous, on obligé pousser un petit accueil là dans la conversation.
That's one of the things that I like about Illusions. They never forget the Cray language. So nous allons parler tout à l'heure anglais et puis créole. Ici un bon bagage pour parler avec langue mamano.
D'accord.
As a given fact, it's important that we speak our mother's language.
It's always a pleasure. Le motan on cette ici là, mon deux bons amis cette ici, Marcus Edwards, il étudie avec moi, et puis on l'autre beau Julian Deloney, c'est l'autre bon frère moi.
Ça, on peut manger langue pour parler.
Oui, mon cas parler. Julian Deloney et puis Marcus Edwards, bon friend moi en cette lycée.
Bon ami moi.
Bon ami cette lycée.
OK fait Primus oui ou ça.
Fameux ça oui si oui.
Non, Makawi, les gens qui sont capables créole, Makawi. Les gens qui communiquent avec eux l'autre, Makawi ça. Moi c'est le professionnel de communication. So Makawi moi essayer par direction.
Mais à l'âge il passe à la cabine.
Mon problème là aussi, Baka di problème pi langage là, ça, alors, ça, c'est ça.
Alors, ba mo di ou sa. Le ou te ka pale créole, le mo te ka leve. Maman ou te ke batou, hein? Le ou ale l'école. Ou te ke batou. Ou te ni pou pale anglais. Ou te ka tape on volé ou sav ça c'est. Mo pas sav ko tout.
Pas service ça pour une raison. Pour parler créole la mauvais. Ou quitter case maman longtemps. Ou aller collage. OK? Ou quitter case.
Cécile
Biotichance.
Ba mon chance non.
Mais let me say Primus, let me say chebe moi à gauche, moi ka chebe moi ça. Et il parle la JI. Ça c'est mon chebe. Il a parlé quand maman moi sorti quoi pays quoi. Mais comment maman ça sorti pays quoi ou même pas ça parler créole.
Ah c'est comme ça ou te connaître. Là où tu en caille maman ou ka bateau. Si vous parlez.
Par contre ça vous dit.
À créole.
C'est pas comme ça on peut dire. Là où tu es petit boug. OK, tu petit garçon. Tu beau l'homme. Maman tu ka bateau pour pas parler créole là. Répétez.
Merci. Non, pas ça dit ça. Moke joindre et nous OK étudier moi langage là.
Oui, il faut en français à dire là ça. Étudier moi. Anyway, Primus, you're back in our English. Good evening to you.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening. I'm happy to have you. You're St. Lucian by birth.
Thank you.
I know that we will speak later on of your experience in Dominica a few years ago. No, Primus, in this program, the Lakou, we normally try to get from our guests the experience living in the yard, the Lakou, the things that they would have done and said in the yard, the life that they lived. And so you too, as a boy growing up, you are able to tell us your life story. You should be able to tell us, but before you give us the entire life story, what we want first, as we always do, is to ask the individuals about their parents, their siblings, the schools that they go to, the church or churches that they went. You know, we start that way. So start by telling us in reference to your mom and your dad.
Yeah, I grew up with all my brothers and sisters are outside. That's my dad had all his. My dad wasn't married to my mom. I grew up with my stepdad, so my brothers and sisters they all were on the other side with on my father's side. On my mom's side, I'm the only child of my mom. So I grew up in a household with my mom and my stepdad. I did mostly all what you would figure out, you know, that a young child growing up would do. You know, we grew up in the countryside, you know, in a sub-community called, at the time it was called Jabal, now it's Jacmel, a rural area, deeply rural area. So we had no pipe-borne water, no electricity. So we had the flabo, the shell, the candles, and so on. We utilized the river water. The river at the time was very clean. And this is where we bathed and did our laundry and so on. And before going to school, you had to, you know, collect your water, wash the wares, and so on, make sure everything is intact, feed the animals, the fowls, you know, the pigs and so on, and goats, and then get yourself ready for school. On weekends, you had to accompany your mom and dad to the farm.
But before we go that fast, you know,
Yeah.
You said that you're from the community of Jacmel, which is actually in the Ros Valley area.
Right, in the Ros Valley.
Is it west of St. Lucia or is it
Yeah, Central West.
Central West? All right.
Yes.
And you said the name was what before?
Jabatis. Yeah. Rosa was always Rosa. The Rosa Valley comprises a number of communities, right? But then when the parish was established by an FMI priest, In the early years, before the community was established, people used to travel to people from the millet community, the Lakou, the Marigo, Roseau proper, and so on, the environs. Everybody traveled to Ancillary, the village, to attend school, funerals, mass, what have you. And it would be walking. You would walk. It's about 3-4 miles of walking to Ancillary and walking back, until this FMI priest came and saw the community and fell in love with it, and established first the church, a wooden structure, and then the school came after. But before that, there was this school that was established, and that is part of a book that I've written with a group of other researchers that should be published later this year, in a few months from now. There was a little makeshift school for the kids, and a community called Hollywood in Roseau. And so they started a school there with the children who could barely, they couldn't say a word of English. And that I attended that school. And whilst we were there, the priest came and fell in love with the community, called the area Jackmel, where he established the church and the primary school after.
What was he? Was the priest French? Because
yes,
Jackmel sounds
FMI, all the FMI priests are French.
Jackmel sounds very French.
Yes, all the FMI priests, they're French. Father Parquet, and he spent most of his lifetime at Jackmel until at a certain age he left. But he had spent almost, I would say, from the late 50s, I suppose 58, 59 or so, up to the early 80s, I think. He served the parish and so on, and he named the community Jackmel.
Would you know why it was named Jackmel? Interesting.
We never actually. I guess it may have been perhaps his experience in Haiti. We couldn't find. By the time it occurred to us to find out why was it named Jackmel, he had already gone, and he passed on. He has passed since. All I could assume is that perhaps, the FMI priest, they travel a number of the Caribbean islands, and it may have been that he might have been in Haiti, and Haiti, there's a Jackmel in Haiti as well, or heard about it or something, but we're not sure. We can't figure out why.
And okay, you spoke of in growing up that you had no pipe-borne water, no electricity.
No pipe-borne water, no electricity.
Yeah, give us a little. Give us the life of that period for you.
We didn't miss it. We grew up. That's how we grew up. But from the 50s, the 60s, and the only place that we actually experienced electricity was the church. The priest had this standby. A generator. He brought in a generator that would provide the church with power and the school. So that's where we first. That was long before electricity was introduced to our community. Long before. In fact, we started getting electricity in the late 70s. When I left St. Lucia to travel to Dominica in 1971. We still had no electricity in the community. So it took a while for electricity to come in. And so we were used to the kerosene, the firewood, the outside kitchen, and so on. Everybody, that's how we lived, the latrine and so on. Just that our rivers were very, very clean. They were not as polluted. Most of the rivers that we used to bathe and do the laundry, and so we can't do that anymore. You can't go into this thing. This is heavily polluted. But this is where that's what we did before going to school, and we walked. Most times we walked. And, if you had a pair of shoes, that was for church. Children went to school barefooted, and I'm part of that experience as well, that went on for quite a while, So what we did, we assisted. Well, the thing is, most of our parents they farm the land. That's how they lived. They farmed the land. They grew their root crops and their citrus and what have you. So this was the rural life. And I believe from the stories that I gathered in years past that a lot of the Caribbean islands went through that kind of experience as well.
Now, I want you to also give us a description of the kitchen, the life in the kitchen, because it's important so that we can be able to relate with each other. So give us the life
the
in
kitchen.
The kitchen
was sort of just a few yards away from the main structure. It's just a few feet away, not yards, feet. And in there, it was like partition. There was the area where you had the makeshift, you want to call it a stove, like where you cook your food. I'm trying to get the name now. This is where you cook the food. That was private. That's where you prepare the food.
The freestones?
The
freestones?
No, that was inside. It was more. That was
the galter. The galter.
That was the conservative way of cooking at the time. I mean, the freestone would be outside if you're going to cook for your pigs and your animals, or if you're cooking your breadfruits, breadfruit take a little while, so you'd have your coal pot outside or your freestones to cook outside. But that area there was where you cook when you cook for the family. That was inside there, and it was partitioned. The front would be the area where we would, if you don't want to eat inside the house, then you would come in and we all would assemble in the other room in the kitchen where we would sit down. We had our benches, mostly benches, not chairs. Would sit on our bench and would eat. Everybody would eat there, and then we would get the water, clean our hands, wash up, make sure everything is intact, and then, if it's evening time, the wares would be washed in the morning. But that's how it was done. The cooking was done in the other room. So people who coming into your kitchen would not see. You would have to invite them into that cooking area. It was like a foyer, like they would say. It's that's where the cooking was done. For breadfruit and fruits like the breadfruit and perhaps banana and so on, we would use a coal pot or freestones outside. There was this. It was done in such a way that the smoke would not spread, but there would be an outlet to allow the smoke to flow, and so on. There's this, the technology at the time. The old people knew what they were doing, and we lived on that for years,
But how would you all preserve your meat and your fish? You have to get fish. You have to get
everything
meat.
was salted.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no refrigeration at the time, as of course without electricity, so everything was salted. So everybody had their fair share of amount of salt. Most times you'd buy the sea salt. That's what was available, and then it would be pounded. You had a mortar and pestle, so you pound your sea salt and make it very fine, and then you have that stored there. So when you buy your fish, it is salted. You buy your meat, it's salted. And oftentimes around Christmas time, where the pigs have to be slaughtered and so on, you end up buying a lot more sea salt. And then
so you all had nothing. You all had nothing called galter. The galter they put over the fire with this
with the wood,
Mm-hmm.
you put the wood to dry. You call that, you shish your wood. You put your wood to dry. Mm.
So you all had.
Yeah, what we would do, and then it's not every time, because we normally use a lot of coals. I mean, that's the other thing I miss. Most of our parents, they would go out in the woods, in the wooded areas, way out to do the charcoals, to cut down the trees and so on, and make the charcoals and so on, and keep their bags and sell some, but keep quite a few there, because that's what we depended on, the charcoals. But also the firewood for cooking outside. On the freestones, the firewood would go out there. All our young people, we went out there in the woods to get the firewood. It was a pleasure. That's the time you get a chance to have a little fun and so on. So you go out there, prepare your firewood, make sure you get, quite a bit to carry back home. Sometimes quite a distance, But we love that because we had at the time the sling, the catapult, and so on. So we went out there to get firewood. At the same time, we
catching
how do you
birds.
say that? Yes, we hunt birds and so on. So and then we bathe in the river. Sometimes we spend too much. Way past the time that we should have been back home. And when we get back home, you have the whip waiting.
Now let me ask you, Primus. In reference to the pots, I know in Dominica as a boy growing up that when we do not want our pots to become black from the fire, we would put mud on the bottom of the bomb, as we normally say, the utensil.
The bucket.
Yeah. Would you
use for? And what was it used? What was it used for?
To protect the bomb from getting dirty. So we put mud underneath the bomb, and we put the pot on fire. Did you all do that in St. Lucia?
I cannot recall. What we do normally, most of the utensils and the cooking stuff, those that were used, that we used for firewood, they would be very dark. We used to that. They like what we use, the pans we use to cook the breadfruit and so on. Outside, those would be because of the smoke and so on. They would be very dark.
So in Dominica,
outside.
we use the mud to prevent that most times.
I can't recall we doing this. It would just be dark. But for those that we use on inside on coals and the coal pot, that was a different, because they had their pans for cooking and so on. They had the whatever they used to stew, and whatever dish that they prepared, there's a special pan that was used, cooking utensils for that particular purpose.
So at what time did you all had stove, the kerosene stove? At what time?
Well, in the countryside, wow, that perhaps that came. Some people probably bought the stove before they had electricity, but that would have been in the 70s. The only person I can remember who had a stove in the 60s when I was an acolyte then. It was a priest. The priest in the presbytery had the kerosene stove, and I think it was a kerosene fridge. That's the first time I saw a refrigerator and a stove. And then
and that's by the but that's by the priest.
By the priest. But then I remembered my cousin who lived in Castries, a school teacher, in the CDC. That's the other place where, at that time, Castries had, in the 60s, electricity everywhere. So even before the experience with the priest, we used to go on weekends to bring stuff down to my cousin, like, school teachers, so you bring your ground provision, you bring your stuff to them, and when you're in there, they'd give you a little Milo. That's where I first drank my Milo and milk and so on, and then you have your buttered bread and so on, and so that's the first time I experienced margarine. That's the only time. It's only we visit my cousin, and she had this kerosene stove and the kerosene refrigerator as well, and so on. And it was quite an experience drinking water, cold water at the time, and anything cold. It was quite an experience, I tell you. You not being used to that at all. So when you were served a glass of water, it took you quite a while to drink this. I can remember, oftentimes if they're not watching, then I'd probably put a little water into it to kind of lessen because of the temperature. Because it was quite cold. You're not used to drinking cold water and so on. And then gradually you get used to it, and then the people that I remember that after church there would be the ice cream and the squash. These people used to buy blocks of ice downtown, and they would have the buses. Remember the trucks?
Yes,
I remember when I Dominica,
the Bedford trucks. The Bedford trucks.
Yeah. Right. So they would buy this bag of ice and take it up and then cover it with wood ash and whatever it was that kept it, you know.
Sawdust sometimes.
Right. And then they would serve on Sundays, they would serve the squash. That's lime squash with ice and so on. And I remember most of the old people would be drinking it on the corner of their mouth because they couldn't swallow it full, and so on. And that was the only time that you had something cold, you know, because you had no refrigerator at home and no stove.
So you the first time you would have witnessed a stove at your home would have been when?
No, my parents never bought a stove. I did that when I became on my own. They never did. And these people were very. They were not. They were not. I mean, when it comes to electricity, these people were petrified. They always felt that, boy, by Sakai Tremun Sakai. So, and I had no control over that. I couldn't do anything. So they didn't want electricity at all. When the electricity came to the area, you know, and quite a few of the old people didn't want to be their house to be electrified because they felt that because all they knew about electricity is that it shocks and it kills. So they were never really, you know, think about that. So I said to myself, okay. When I'm on my own and I'm working, I'll get it.
So tell us a little bit. So tell us a little bit of the bullseye life. Flabo. Give us a little of the Flabo life.
The
Flabo. Yes, the bullseye.
We used to call it shal, and yeah. But at home you had the kerosene lamp and the blabal and the candles and so on. But when you're going out, if you have to go out late, or normally on payday, that is the Hollywood Rosso, the Fridays, after payday, then people would still patronize the shops, have their little grog and so on. So they normally would leave, and then there were no lights. There were no lights at the time, so they had their flabo. So everybody had their flabo in a secured area. So after they prepared to leave, you would see a string of lights, people going in different directions with the flabo, traveling back home. You know, yeah, that was the case. You know, so if your animal has an issue in the field, the only way you can access is to light your flabo. The gamblers, you know, on weekends, that's what they had. They had their flabo by the road, and they would, you know, sit, you know, a circle around and play run the dice and the flabo, you know. So flabo was even dancing, you know, because at the time there were no electricity, so people, the hi-fis had this generator, this small generator, you know, and they would take along with them. Even in the 80s, they still did that. There were some areas in St. Lucia still didn't have electricity, and they would travel with the shal, the flabo, to the dance, and after dance, people knew exactly where the flabo was, and they would get back the flabo and walk back home. Oftentimes, you know, these miscreants in the community would watch through where the fellas, you know, hit their flabo, and so they would take that, they would snatch that away. So no flabo, and then during that era, people believe in the witches and the gages and so on. I don't know.
You know, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about, in those days, from a distance, you could stay in Jackmel and maybe see a light in Masque, and you'd say the Sukuya.
Yeah, most times they'll say, and I've heard so many stories of that. I mean, the old men coming home from whatever visited there, from spending time with the Jabal and the outside lady and so on. And
all right, some person may not know what's Jabal. So Jabal is an outside lady. Some dumb
kids
may
right.
not know.
And then when they get into a crossroad, they'd come across a coffin. That's the kind of story, and they'd have to
they have to cross it.
The wise among them, the wisest among them would know what to do. You know, they do whatever they had to do and get the coffin out of the way and so on. Or they would see a headless giant on a horse, you know, chasing them and so on. Or also the larger bless and the less we. This at the time there was a lot of this kutumba, the taboo and the belly dancing and so on. Normally around October, and it's still sort of active in certain areas in this country. The FRC, the Folk Research Center, they're trying to revive all of this cultural activities and so on. And when they have this ballet dances and so on, this woman would come in the beautiful fair skin, long hair, you know, and everybody they focus on this woman, not realizing that she had one leg, normal leg, and a good leg. And fellas everybody would
Russian dance for.
Yeah, they wonder. Everybody at her, everybody, and she's not pushing them away.
That same thing happened in that also happened in Dominica.
And then the thing is, after you enjoy yourself, and she could dance, they'll tell you she was the best dancer around, and the hair flowing, and so on. And after the dance, you know, fellas check the lucky fella or the unlucky guy would go out with the lady, and next thing, you know, either you get lost somewhere as you don't know about, or your peepees end up in an ant's nest. You know, you know, those are stories that I grew up with. I don't know how true that is. You know, we can't ascertain how factual. You know, but some of the stories that you hear. So
well, I can tell you, Primus, in Dominica, the same stories that you're giving, we heard all of the stories too in Dominica.
I tell you.
So it must have been it must have been a Caribbean African tradition.
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been. And so a flabo was essential. If you go out there and you can't find your flabo to come back home, boy, you know, you would rather sleep at a friend's home.
We normally say bullseye, you say flabo, we say bullseye.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, so we say the flabo, we say there's another thing called shal, and then that's how we call it too. So for a very long time, that was the experience. And the only time that we had as kids had fun was when it was full moon. You know, and if you have your eye on a little girlfriend, and so that's the only time you get a chance to talk to her. Just talk. You know, children run around, play ring games and so on, and the parents would not be too far watching though. You know.
What kind of ring games that you all would have played at that time?
There are quite a few of them. You know, my memory doesn't serve me. There were quite a few holding hands and singing and.
There's a brown girl in the ring, tra la 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 la.
And there were quite a few others. You know, there were quite a few others, and then we'd play something called Nay, where you hide and seek.
Yes, and pool is there, volley.
Yeah, and all of this police and Negmao and all of this. Yeah, so, and then the priest introduced us to cinema. He had a 16mm, and this is how we started. We were introduced to movies, you know, mostly black and white movies. And the color
I don't normally take calls, but that call is an overseas number, so I'm taking the call. Good evening to you, caller.
Good night, Cecil. Good night. I'm listening to your good program. But let me tell you, your your partner on the radio, I think he's right. Let me tell you, there is flambeau and bullseye. The bullseye would be the one in the bottle that is made out of kerosene and whatnot. And then the flambeau is made out of wood. There's a special wood we used to get in the bush to make the flambeau. So the names are different. The flambeau is made out of wood and the bullseye out of the bottle and kerosene. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for
but
that.
we use it interchangeably. Yeah? Back home, yeah, I will not doubt it, but back home we use the name interchangeably. You know, I guess that it got
once you have light, once you get light, you call it flabo.
Yeah, that's how we used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let me ask, because I have to ask you about school and church. But I want to find out before school and church. When you first get to Castries, at what age did you get to Castries?
Say that again?
At what age did you get to Castries for your first time?
It was at a very early age. I was not even at school, as I mentioned earlier. We had this cousin of ours, a school teacher. So she would come in on school holidays. She would visit home, you know, to collect stuff like food and what have you. And then my mom, like almost every weekend, mom would carry stuff down to her. You know, I guess from an early age, from the age of when I have early recollection, if I can recollect, it must have been around maybe 6, 7 or so, I believe. But I can recall mom taking me on the bus, you know, on the truck, we used to call it, to Castries. That must have been in the early 60s to visit our cousin. And that's where I drank Milo and had cold drink, cold water, and I saw the stove. And so I saw that before the priest really established its parish in Jabal, you know. And that is where, that was one of the other experience that
What time hold on, before you go to the next experience, what time would you have to get up in bed to get to Castries?
Oh man, you have to be very, very early. By 5 o'clock, going up to 6. Now for us, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. But for people down south and southwest and southeast, from Soufrière, I'm not sure for Castries and Castries and Castries would probably be about the same time zone with us, the same time, you know, because we're not too far from each other. But Soufrière, Choiseul, Labrie, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to be up and ready. Because I remember the road they were very narrow, and the trucks had to navigate so many corners and up and down hills, very precarious route. It's amazing that there were not many traffic issues at the time, although there were not many vehicles. But if the roads were so narrow and the precipices and so on, and it was a perilous quest. Just traveling from one end of St. Lucia to the other, particularly on the southern western area of St. Lucia.
So let me ask you, if where the trucks were coming from, Marigot, Ancillary,
we had our own. The first truck we had, the when I can recall, and I suppose before that, the people from Jacmel, the communities, Boaden, the sub communities, Jacmel, Millet had the truck a long time. We got ours late, but then there was this truck from Lakou. Lakou is between Cul-de-sac and Marigot, and there was the Firefly truck, and this truck used to service the Jacmel area, you know, both Jacmel and Lakou. So they would come down to pick the passengers from the Jacmel area, and you would have to be up by 6, 5:36. to catch that bus to be on your way to town. And by 1 o'clock, you should be on that bus getting back home. If you miss that bus, then I don't know, you're in trouble.
So you have to get to the bus terminal by 1 o'clock, or else
the truck would go up to a particular point, because not everywhere was motorable. With the roads, only a particular, you can only travel to a certain distance, So you had to walk from your home to where the bus is going to be, to be. You have to be there at a certain time, sometimes way before that. So you will find most of the people who are traveling to Castries would be there waiting for the truck, all right? And then they would board the truck to town with the
So from
Jackmill,
at that time from Jackmill to Castries would take you how much time?
That would right now to travel from here to town, that's a 7 mile drive. Depending on the traffic, you can get there in maybe 20-25 minutes, sometimes less. At that time, it would take you almost 45 minutes, close to an hour to get to Castries. The drive. Although I can remember some of the truck drivers were very fast on that narrow road, but it would take you a little while to get there because of the winding road and the ups and the downs and so on. Fortunately, there were not many vehicles on the road, so you would hardly find an incoming vehicle on your way. So that in itself facilitates, you taking the distance from your departure to your destination.
Okay.
So that is how it was at the time.
Let's talk a little bit about school, primary school. Give us your life in primary school.
Well, as I indicated earlier, I started school in a community called Hollywood Roseau. And then in the book that we've written, a lot is said about this community. In fact, because there in that community, when that area was discovered, way back by the colonizers, the Europeans came into the Roseau Bay, and they saw the richness of the soil and so on. So they established, they started planting cocoa and so on. So that's how the slaves came in. They saw the land and the beachfront. The ship would be able to come in close, and they saw the valley, and that is how they started off. Planting cocoa, sugar cane, what have you, during the slave era, and that is how and then after the slaves were freed, they went to the various areas to establish their huts and so on. So that area has been an impoverished area for a very, very long time, and they only now beginning to get out of it. And then after the slavery, then the big, those that are, how should I describe them? Some of the wealthy people around, they bought the lands, they bought the estates and so on, and that the factory was established way back, and then they started producing sugarcane and sugar. They cultivated quite a few acres, of sugarcane, and sugarcane became the main export, and that's how we produce sugar. That is why the distillery is still in Roseau, an award-winning distillery now, producing so many spirits. I'm sure you've heard of some of what we produce, but it started off producing sugar, and so the people worked on the farm, and so the government decided that the children of these people had to have some form of education, and so they sent in a gentleman to establish a school in one of the estate house downstairs, and that building is still around. And so this gentleman came. He was a former teacher. He was teaching at the St. Aloysius RC Boys School in Castries, and he was selected and sent to Roseau to establish the school. And the children, none of the children could have spoken English at the time, barefooted, and that is where the first school started. Downstairs, the children were sitting on the floor. There was, and he himself would tell you the story. And I think we interviewed him, and it's all in the book. And the parents, I remember them. He's telling me that the parents would come in and peep through the holes, and if the teacher asked the children to say like B80 bat, the parents outside would repeat the same thing, B80 bat, and so on. And it grew up from there, to the point that because most all of the children of school age from Jacmel, Millet, and the surrounding the environs, they would walk from their area, from Millet, as far as Millet. That would be quite a few miles though, to Ancillary to school, and then walk back home before that school was established. So I think the government at the time decided that was too much, and so that's how they established the school. And then Millet, I think Millet got theirs before us, the private school, long before us. I can't remember the date though. And so while we were attending the school in the Hollywood community in that little estate house, the FMI priest came, and then he built the church, a wooden church, and part of the church was the school. So we were moved from the estate house in Hollywood Roseau to the church in Jacmel, and part of the church was used for schooling during the week, and on Sundays everything was rearranged for church. And then the same afternoon, the Sunday afternoon, benches, everything were put in place so that the children can attend school. And while that was being done, the private school was being built just a few yards away, and it's still there today.
Is it this? You're talking about Jackman? Is it the same place where the Catholic Church is at present?
Right, not too far. I mean, you're familiar with Jackman. You're familiar with the communities.
So the same place where the church is now, that is where the school was.
Yes, okay. Very much so.
All right, and
it was a church, but it served as a school on weekdays.
No, you all would have had to sit common entrance. How did that go?
No, there were no common entrance at the time. And in the days from the 60s to the 70s, you wrote the school leaving certificate. You write the English, the arithmetic, the whatever it is, how many subjects. You are given an exam. The school leaving exam, that would be I think it would be at 14 or 13 or at that time, because you'd be leaving school at 15. For people like me, the principal at the time decided that we were 14, 15, going to 16, and he said that he cannot see us leaving school at this time because of the unemployment situation. That would be 1970, 68. 69, 67, 68, and they created a new classroom, standard 7, because all classes, there was no more classes. They were just from stage 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then there was standard 1 up to standard 6. But he created a new class, standard 7, for us, and so and we had special teachers. And we had the Pisco volunteers coming in to teach. So a lot of us stayed in school at age 16, 15, 16. Some became teachers. Some worked in the hotel industry and so on. And that's how I went to Dominica.
So we'll talk about that, about coming to Dominica. But your learning experience in primary school. Did you go to high school by any chance?
That's interesting. It was very, very difficult to get to a secondary school. And I hate to say that, but you have to be you have to be of
Un
a certain
négociant.
stature.
Un négociant.
Your sociological your background, had to be at a certain level, certain stature, to get to the school. It was just two secondary schools. The convent, St. Joseph's Convent, and St. Mary's College, and very privileged children made it there, and even those that were extremely bright from the small communities didn't get a chance. And even if you had done well, and your parents couldn't afford, and at that time there were no sponsorship didn't exist at all. So a lot of children, even at the primary school level, Cecil, a lot of the students who could have been teachers didn't get a chance. A lot of students of my age group who were very bright, they didn't get a chance. They never got a chance. Some of them went overseas. Some of them just decided, well, to heck with it. And some of them, I see them up to this day. They could have done a lot better. I think I had the blessings of the Creator, the Almighty, because I could not have gotten to a secondary school. There's no way. Most of the children in the primary school, and I think that was island-wide, especially in the smaller communities, the rural communities. It will be very difficult to make it to a secondary school. Fortunately for Beaufort in the south, Beaufort at the junior and senior sec, I believe, and a lot of children, like the former Prime Minister Dr. Anthony and others, got a chance to attend the primary school in Beaufort, secondary school in Beaufort. But most of the children in the various smaller communities never had a chance. Never got a, no matter how bright you were. It was not possible. You had to be of a certain stature. The social status had to be at that level.
What year was that?
That would be in the 60s, leading up to the 70s, all through the 70s as well. And well, I left school at 16 at standard 7, and whilst I was at school, I'd left. I think I left after a while because we were just there. We were taught, but it was like we were just there. They were just keeping us there. And after a while, I said, so I left, and I was home for a little while, and then this gentleman who is since deceased, Egbert Lionel deceased, who became permanent secretary and all of that. I think he was with the Ministry of Community Development, and at the time, we'll get to that later, but I've just given you a preview of this. The government of the Windward Islands, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, for some reason, and the same unemployment issue, because of that, the ministers for community development came together and they decided that they're going to try to help the youth in this various countries to learn a trade, whether it be agriculture, auto mechanics, construction, what have you. And so that's how the Dominica Regional Youth Camp was born. For whatever reason, they decided to have it in Dominica. I cannot remember. And Major Johnson, I'm sure you know Major Johnson very well, was the director. And so I spent like the 69, left school, 70 I was home, 71 I was off to Dominica.
No, I want to find out from you, Primus, how did the Lakou influence your life while at school? There were other boys, girls in your yard?
We all came from the same experience, Cecil. All of us, the same experience. So we didn't, nobody learned from each other. We all knew, we came from that experience. The only thing that were introduced to us, the sports, cricket, football, and so on. That was our pastime. That kept us, the cricket, the football, the volleyball, so on. So that kept us occupied a lot. So we played. If we didn't play marbles, or we go out hunting with our catapult, then we'd play cricket with the coconut bat, the palm, out of the coconut palm, would construct a cricket bat, and so on, and we played on the road, on the main road, and so on, and that's what our game was. And from school, but at school it was the same experience. We carried, some people had their carrier, they carried their food in there, their little fig vets and lamoe and so on, because we were all poor, and the teachers themselves, most of the teachers, that's how it was, and those who succeeded, well, God bless them, because it was really a tough time. It was like 15 years of schooling. After that, if you did well with your school leaving certificate, then you might probably get a teaching job. And the priest had to decide, because it was the church was under the Roman Catholic Church, so the priest would decide, who would teach, because most of us we were Roman Catholics, So the priest would make a decision as to who will teach. And then you just don't start teaching. They would bring you in as a, how do you call it? A helper. Oh. Yeah, a sort of a helper at first, then a student teacher, and then you have to write a few exams, After that, then you've been brought in as a PE, how do you call it? PT1 and so on. I can vaguely remember. And then PT2, then you wrote a few exams, then they had lecturers coming into the school to train these young teachers, these student teachers, and then based on their performance, then they would then attend the teachers training college.
Right. No, he's talking about the pupil teacher 1, pupil teacher 2, and pupil teacher 3.
Yes, those were the days. Yeah. So even after leaving school, your chances of becoming a teacher, irrespective of how intelligent you were, and so on, and even if you had done well, because I knew quite a bit of my colleagues at school who did very well, and they didn't get to teach at all. Some of them became they started working at the hotels in Marigot. They became supervisors on the estate.
But let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Whilst at school, going to school in your community, what did you use? Did you use a slate? Did you have half an exercise?
When we first started off, as I mentioned earlier, at the estate house, all we used was the slate, and I that slipped me. We used the slate, and then when we were introduced to the new school, it took a while before the exercise books came in, and when they first brought in the exercise books, we had those fountain pens and the ink. You used to buy the ink separately, and then you used to use it to. The pen was in such a way that it would suckle in the ink, and then you should have seen the mess writing on this exercise books. There were lines, double lines or single lines, and A would go through about 3 lines. Your other letter would go right up, and then ink would smell all over. It was a heck of an experience, but our teachers, they understood and they knew it was difficult for us. So it took us a while to develop the penmanship to be able to write, because the slate, it was like, you write and then you can erase, and then write again. With the pen, there's no erasing, and so on. So we made quite a mess on the exercise books. Quite a mess. It took us a while.
My last question to you. when you went to primary school, how many exercise books did you have? Did you have half an exercise book? Did you have a full exercise book or pencil? What did you have?
So people went to school to exercise books, and there was a problem with the teachers to get some of these people. Some of them, they had one and it was in the back pocket. You know, sometimes when they get home, they on the way they stopped to play the marbles and turn sapet. That fell on the way. You know, they came back to school, no exercise book. You know, or half an exercise book. Some of the pages gone. You know, remember the exercise book? There was this back with the arithmetic tables and so on. One, how was it? The multiple. How was it? What was it called?
Two ones are two. Two twos are
four.
Two
multiplication tables.
Yes.
Yeah. That would be gone.
And other conversions.
Yeah, and so on. And yeah, you know, but some students were very neat and they took care of them. But it was just one exercise book. You did all your subjects. You know, it took years after. By the time I got to standard 4, because from standard 1 I was sent straight to standard 4, myself and 4 others, and standard 4 into standard 5. Then we had an exercise book for every subject, and then by the time we got to standard 6, we had, you know, all the books, you know, the Ronald readouts and the 40 lessons and these other books and so on, and then the exercise books for every subject. Long pants, short pants? We started off with short pants, and I think we never wore long pants. I left school and we were introduced to our uniform beige and black when Queen Elizabeth visited the Windburn Research Center. That's when the agriculture was booming, and they established that Windburn Research Center that served the Windward Islands, the research center. And the Queen came in 1966. And so Miss Elwin, who was the principal at the time, decided that, okay, we cannot go to that ceremony looking like, so she introduced the uniform black and beige. And that stayed with the school for a long time until my neighbor, who became the principal, Mrs. Charles, decided to change the uniform. And that's what they're wearing up to now.
Well, let me ask you my final question about school. Did you go to school with any underwear?
Boy, underwear? It took in the early years, just your pants. When you playing marbles or anything like that, this thing hanging on the side because the little short pants underwear. It took. I think I was introduced to underwear in standard 4, standard 5. You know, you had your little caleçon. And that's when you start thinking that you're a man, you know, because but we used to bathe in the rivers naked, you know, or, you know, that was just a normal thing, you know. Nobody bothered, you know, the girls too, you know. Well, by the time we got to 12, 13, 14, that was a different story.
But let me ask you, Primus, in reference to the back of the pants, you had any lights at the back of your pants?
Lights at the back of
your pants.
Oh, you mean?
I know this one will take you.
Yeah, well, you know, not only that, there was something you call the babuchet. The pants, after all the buttons were gone, the fellas had to find a way to tie this thing somehow. Some of the guys, you tie it at the front. You give it a knot because it had no buttons anymore and no belts. So that's how fellas went to school, you know. And another problem was, you know, combing your hair. You know, we black people, that she wear a wed. The teacher would have a comb, and that would just come cap after that. You know, the more people has got licks, you know, combing your hair was an issue, and you know, but the teachers understood that a lot of parents could not help, and the guys and some of those children, the fellas would, you know, like the coconut palm and so on. Like there was this little incline, and fellas would ride on that Facebook Kakuishi, and then that's how the lights came, So even at home, it was that way. The ponds that you were at home, most of it, they were always two backlights, but that was normal. It was a normal thing. Nobody made fun of you for that. That's how we all were. No one looked upon you as, but there were a few upper class, one or two upper class in the area, that as always you would find that. But the majority of us, that's how we lived.
We had a term, and still I think they still use it. I'm not so sure if you all use it in St. Lucia. Tubac. Did you do any tubac in school?
What was it called?
Tubac. That's what we say in Dominica. Tubac meaning that you didn't go to school, you skip school and you go to the garden, you go to a man's garden, you cut his cane, you take his mangoes.
Okay. I think we had a term for it. I can't recall what it is now. But I cannot. What the hell? I cannot recall at this time. But I think we had a term as well. It just doesn't come to mind at this time. But we did have a term for people who hardly went to school.
So you did.
And we had quite a few of them. A lot of dropouts.
No, you did that.
No. I took my schooling extremely very. My mom would not allow. My mom. One thing, God bless her soul. She made sure that I attended my school, but I was very sickly. So I spent a lot of time at home because I was asthmatic. And believe me, when I got to Dominica, this thing left me.
Wow, fresh air.
It's very asthmatic. So I missed a lot of school, but for some reason I just, I was focused on my parents, my mom and my stepdad. Made sure that I got all my school. I still have my primary school books, They're still there. Quite a few of them. English books, the Wood Perfect and others. They're still there in my little library.
Okay, so let's take a little bend. Church. It's sounding like you are Bido Leglis. Tell us something about church, your life in church.
Well, the Catholic Church, the influential church in the community with Father Parker. We look at that time, a priest, a policeman, a teacher, they were the ones revered. They were looked upon. A priest was highly respected, highly respected. You saw a priest as a Timothy, the next to godliness would be a priest. Then it would be the policeman and then the teacher. Those were highly respected people in the communities. And so everybody wanted, church was filled every Sunday. You had to do your first communion, your confirmation, go to what do you call it? You had to do your whatever it is before confirmation and the catechism classes and so on. And everybody wanted to be an acolyte because acolytes were highly respected as well. So from an early age, I wanted to be an acolyte. And then one of my friends, schoolmates, who was already an acolyte, told me, if you want to be an acolyte, you have to wake up early morning before you go to school and then attend the 6:30 Mass and then to learn the ropes and so on. And that's what I did. I woke up very early on mornings. I went with him and I told Father Parker that I was interested in becoming an acolyte, and that's how I learned. I went to the service, the 6:30 service, every morning to learn the ropes, and then from there walk back home, go to the river for my shower, and get ready for school.
Normally, I too was an altar boy, so there are things that we would have done in common. Would you yourself done a number of things in common with your other altar boys while serving?
Well, I don't know what how you say it, but one of the things that people used to say, the common how people were perceived, how acolytes were perceived, apart from the fact that they were considered godly and as well respected, they also called them alcoholic modi. It's like we would do things out of the way.
Zakolik Modi.
Right. They were not, because we were sort of a little unruly sometimes. I mean, we felt because we were acolytes that we were untouchable, and even in school we behaved like, we were acolytes and so on. So we are better off than you, and so we made fun of certain people. And as if people couldn't touch us, because in church, we were on the altar. We had the incense, we had the cross, we took care of when the offertory and this and that. We were playing up, and when you become a senior acolyte, and even more so, you're highly respected. But we did a lot of things. We took the unconsecrated losty, the host, and some of us would take that in the sacristy. And go and eat that with squash, and so on. And we would, whilst the service is on, if we were not serving the priest, we would just walk out, make a few rounds while service is on, and come back. Quite a few things, But it was quite an interesting experience being an acolyte. People respected you. And then from there I became a catechist. I taught catechism, and then that was the time when I was ready to travel to Dominica, and the priest wasn't very happy about that. That I would be going to Dominica to learn and to study agriculture. He was very, very upset with me, and he said that I'm going up there, because he was an FMI, he was French, so he knew the Creole very well, and he wasn't very pleased about me leaving my catechist class and then catechism class and then to go up to Dominica. But being an acolyte, and one of the things I need to mention, I was petrified of death, of dead people. I remembered once I was coming from school, and the Holy Name organization, there was a Holy Name who passed, and they were coming with the body, and I could hear them shout, singing from a distance, and boys, Cecil, I had a little grip, them little small suitcase that I carried my books in, and I pelted. The books fell, all the books scattered. I was so afraid. If they were, at that time, Cecil, I don't know if you all did it in Dominica, but people carried the coffin. If the person died in the night, the whole community would come in, the coffee, the sugar, they'll bring this, and then they will have the people to clean and prepare the body for burial, because early morning you have to travel, let's say from Millet. If it's Millet, you have to leave say by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock to travel all the way to Ancillary. And you'd have a lot of helpers, and then they would have the white rum to help the carriers, or the people carrying the coffin, and so on.
And what about ice on the in a basin on the dead body and if a piece of and grass? Did you all do that? You all did that? What I know in the early days, what they did was they would take a white basin, small basin, and put ice in that basin. More or less to have the body cool and some kind of grass.
But Cecil, we had at the time we had no. The only people who had that ice would be on weekends, when the people who made the squash and this thing. We had no ice. The body, they would bring in the citrocol and the white strong rum, and they would bathe the body, clean the armpits.
With the rum?
The bottom.
With the rum?
Yeah, with the spirit, the strong rum. That was the spirit. The strong rum, the high spirit, the 90%.
Yes, the 90%.
Right, proof. And at that time, they would use that because that would kill the odor. It serves as a disinfectant as well. So they used that in water and in the basin. So they clean the body, the under the arms, the buttocks, the armpit, the thing, and then they push cotton in the nose and the ears and so on, and the buttocks, and then they dress the body. and prepare it for burial. Whilst that is happening, the carpenters are outside preparing the coffin, and then the wake takes place. The people are singing the Sankey, and then if you are in bed and the body is not too far from you, like on the other side, you can hear. You can't sleep at night, sir, because you hear the people singing the wake songs, and that is so. It was so terrifying just to hear, you know. So it's only when I became an acolyte, I started, you know, not fearing death and so on, and having to carry the cross in front of a coffin, and then I started visiting dead people and so on, and I became used to dealing with dead bodies and so on.
That's an interesting story. Every Caribbean country maybe would have had their own differently, you know. So now you were giving us a story about the garden that you find yourself having to go and help your parents on the weekend in the garden. All right.
That was a norm for all of us.
Mm-hmm. All the ordinary children in the community.
All the ordinary children. You may not be able to use the agricultural stuff, the tools and so on, implements and so on, the fork, the spade and so on, the cutlasses and so on. But you would help your parents. You would carry, if it's the dashing, the plants or this, you would help carry it, you know, and take it to the gentleman who would. You want to hold that fort?
You want to hold that fort? Someone's on the phone for a while. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, Kurt.
Yes, good evening.
In the relation of the ice on the dead body's stomach, remember at that time it did not have places like Linus and so the ice on the stomach was to keep the stomach to not to rise.
Oh no! What we did was there's a herb. I don't remember the English name. It's called Pierpool. It's a very popular herb all around the house.
We have that here too. Pierpool.
They would rip it off with all the soil and place it if the stomach is bulging. If the stomach swells, that's the only time they do that. If the stomach swells, then they place it on the body, and then the stomach would just go back down.
We used to use the ice. We used to use the ice and the Pierpool together.
Oh, right. Okay. No, we just use the and we didn't have the ice at the time. There's no way I would have been able to get hold of the ice.
That is it, caller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So go ahead. You're talking about the farm.
Yeah. In the farm, you are a helper. You carry the plants. You take them to because normally there would be what you call a kudme, where members of the community would come and assist you. Like today would be. If this weekend I am having a kudme, my wife would prepare the meals, and the other wives around will come with the to help out, would cook and would have the drinks, and they would help prepare the land, you know, to clear the land, and then the next time it will be like cultivation and so on, and then they would come. It's like a group. Today you helping Primus, the next time it would be Cecil and then the gentleman there and so on. It was a coordinated activity. And so that is how it is. And the children would be there helping. And from there, when it's time for harvest, you carry some of the crops back home. You help to carry the food back home, whether it be yams, dashing, whatever. You know, you have to help and assist. You know? And sometimes...
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say that I've seen the growth of jackmel into bananas. I think it might be the biggest area in the whole of St. Lucia in terms of the production of bananas in the early days.
The Ros Valley.
The Ros Valley.
Yeah.
Give us the transition from the other crops that you had before bananas into bananas.
Well, it was mainly sugarcane. Sugarcane was the main crop because the distillery produced it. When we had some of the after the early settlers, you know, then the other people came in to purchase, you know, the DeVos and some other well-known figures in the country purchased the land, and they started growing the sugarcane. The sugarcane was the main crop. And most of the the residents of the community. That's how they made their living. They work on the sugarcane. Now it was an annual. It was an annual crop. It took a whole entire year, you know. But they work on the farm. They did all of the work that was necessary on the estate to take care of the cane until they're ready for harvesting. And that went on for all those years. It was a very arduous task. It was, I mean, the cutters. There was the cutters and those who carried the cane, and I mean those fields were thick, and they were centipede and other insects and so on. So they had to set fire to some of the canes to allow easy access, and then to clear the lands. And then at first there were people used to carry that on their head, and then they brought in the railways. They established railways, and then they had the wagons, and they had the mules to haul in those wagons filled with cane stocks. Then a few years after, they brought in the locomotives, which made it a lot easier to transport the canes from one point to the other on those railways. The railways stayed there until the introduction of the model farm. The model farm was a new method that was introduced for bananas, where they were giving the farmers control of the farms. And so, but before that, the cane, and it went on until it was discovered that cane was no longer profitable, because the other countries were producing beet and they were producing canes from other areas. So that was becoming very competitive. And then the owners, the estate owners, decided to make a shift, a transition from, and that would have been in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, into bananas. And then they made quite a few changes, because they tried different varieties that didn't work well, and then until it came to what it is today. Well, of course, we know bananas no longer is a profitable venture. But we remember bananas were known as the green gold. So when the cane industry failed, they brought in bananas, and that did very well, because a lot of farmers, people went into their own production. You know, a lot of farmers on island, that is how they were able to send their children to school, even the university. They did bananas did very, very, very well, until the point where they decided to establish the model farms, and where every farmer was given a 5-acre plot, and they were making up to every quarter, sometimes $20,000-$30,000 for the quarter. You know, the land will list to them, and based on based on the sales, you know, they would pay off the land to the banks. But a lot of the project failed, because a lot of the farmers, I don't think they were quite prepared for that, because most of those farmers never really made close to $1,000 or $500 a month, or week, or whatever. Most of those farmers were paid what? I cannot recall, but weekly, I bet must have been about $25 for the week, or $30 for the week. And now the fellows were making $25,000 a quarter every 3 months. And Cecil, let me tell you something. I was at the time already employed with the Government Information Service, or I was with Winban? No, I had already left Winban. As you couldn't be around these guys. These fellas would walk into a bar and just buy the entire bar. You know, that's one of the reasons why the program failed. And guess what? A lot of the early landowners bought back the land, the farms. And that's how it's done now. We have bananas, we still have bananas, but it's not going anywhere. Farmers are hardly making any money.
So you're saying that the productivity of bananas in St. Lucia has dropped?
It is. I mean, and if you follow, I mean, the government has tried. They've tried everything. The last time they tried the French market, for whatever reason that failed, and then there are a number of banana. Then there was the St. Lucia Banana Growers Association, the SLBGA. They were responsible for shipping our bananas, buying it, and farmers were just selling and they getting the money and so on. That went through all sorts of ups and downs, politics of it, until they had to do away with it. And then I'm sure you know the story. You can always follow that up. A number of journalists wrote about it. I don't want to go into that. But the SLBGA failed, and then they formed different banana companies. And guess what? The farmers who were owing the SLBGA, when they formed the different banana companies, they left and they joined the company, so they didn't have to pay back that. So all of that, and people embezzled, I understood, quite a few millions. So all of these things messed up the banana industry and so on. People are still selling. I guess they're selling to other parts of the Caribbean, the farmers. So they're still making some money somehow. I grew bananas after a while. I was into bananas. And then when I started working with the Government Information Service, I couldn't get people to work. My wife was expecting, and it was too much of a trouble, so I had to give it up. But I still regretted that I didn't grab the opportunity to get myself one of the model farms.
Let me ask you now. You are a broadcast journalist.
Yes, I am. I'm an agriculturist as well.
A what?
I am an agriculturist as well.
Okay. Now, what did the Lakou did to you to get you so involved in the field that you are in now?
In the field of communications, broadcast journalism?
Communications, yes.
Before that, then we have to go back. When I was asked whether I wanted to go to Dominica to study agriculture, I didn't hesitate because I grew up farming with my parents, right? So I went up to Dominica, and we'll talk about that, but I'll just give you a brief thing. And I did agriculture for 2 years. Then I came back here. I was employed with the Ministry of Agriculture. And then after the Ministry of Agriculture, I was with the Gist Industries. Gist Industries, they control the Ros Valley, the bananas, and the other stuff. And I worked with Gist for a very short while. And then I started with Windban. I worked with Windban for a little while. I was part of the team as an extension officer. In all the areas I worked as an extension officer. With the Ministry of Agriculture, Gist, I was a supervisor. And then Windban, I worked as a banana development extension officer. Where we work with all the farmers, the research, and all of the things to get. And that time, banana was really green gold. I'm sure you remember the radio series that the late
Bully
produced, and I never missed an episode. So that was my experience in agriculture. But whilst in agriculture, and long before that, we were introduced. My stepdad brought a radiogram, one of those small radiograms, and so we were listening to stations like, we had WIBS, and then you had Radio Trinidad, and then the Spanish radio. So I was listening to a lot of programs. They would tune in. They didn't understand English very well, but they just loved the music and some others. And then Radio Caribbean would have the French. They would most of the programs were in French, and then I would be listening, and I got fascinated by listening to the radio and wondering, the voice coming from the other end. How did that happen? And I couldn't get anybody to tell me, and so I was fascinated from a very early age. So during my agriculture years, I became more, Okwa, more informed regarding radio and so on. I said I would love to be a radio announcer, but it's just the same experience with the primary school, and leaving primary school to attend St. Mary's College or St. Joseph Convent. It was almost a similar experience for somebody from the rural areas to join and become a broadcaster. It was unthinkable. So when I decided I wanted to be a broadcaster, people laughed at me. They made fun of me. Now, the worst thing is that I had lost my job at Winburn, and I was trying then to get into radio, and it just wasn't working. I remembered, and I would not mention them, and some of them came back to me and apologized. At that time, I was already with my wife. We were not married then, but we had children. I would travel to Castries and to a particular radio station almost every week to audition. And that was it. And I would see them snickering behind me. Some of them, they're still around, making fun of me. And I used to go back home crying. And there was a particular manager. He's still alive. He became, well, not a good friend, but quite an associate. Couldn't help it anyway. And this gentleman would have me to come to his office and walk with him, following him all around Castries. And then he would go back to his office and tell me, well, come back next week. And he did that for me for many months, And then that went on for a while, and the people from the community started making, you have a woman, you have children, and all you want to do is to go on radio. You don't have what it takes to be on radio. Opawe says, go chokika last radio, a bit sorti, and you want to be on radio and so on. And they made fun of me, and they said all sorts of derogatory things and unpleasant stuff, about me and so on. And that was so humiliating, but I persisted. I said I wanted to be a radio. And so I finally got in touch with Jerry George. You must be familiar with Jerry George, one of our prominent broadcasters.
Great voice.
Yes.
Great voice. And then the next time you see Jerry, tell him I said hi.
I will. He's my compere actually. He sponsored my first child.
Okay.
I went to him. I stopped him and I said, I love radio. I would love to be a radio broadcaster. He said, well, are you sure? It's not an easy thing. You have to be able. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. I said, I don't mind. But I wasn't at work. I wasn't employed. And then he started what he called the radio workshop. That went on for 2 years. And some of the best broadcasters in radio today in St. Lucia, they attended the radio. And he did it free of charge for 2 years. We didn't pay him a cent. And he conducted the program at Radio St. Lucia because he was with Radio St. Lucia at the time. And the Mikey Rogers of Wave and so many others. And Arturo Valentino and quite a few others. They assisted the workshop. But then after the 2 years, we had an exam, and Margaret Roberts, still deceased, others were the examiners and so on. That did not guarantee us a job because, again, those who were closer to Castries or part of Castries, they were able to get a job. They got a trial and so on. So I still did not get a job. And then there are a few issues about people say they wanted to help me, but they were just playing around with me. I wouldn't mention them. And then Matthew Roberts, the former Speaker of the House, he was with the Government Information Service as Principal Information Officer. And he used to come up to Radio St. Lucia to record his programs. And he used to see me there almost every time. And he came once and he said, you look like you have an interest in radio. I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, I can see that. I will try to see what I can do to help you. And it went on for a little while, but I was still coming up to Radio St. Lucia every time I get a chance. Jerry would take me on to do an outside broadcast with him and so on. And when people heard me on the radio for the first time on a trial basis, boy, they said so many unpleasant things. But that was just to spur me on. Then one day, Mr. Roberts, called me. He said, look, I want you to come down to my office immediately. So I dressed and I came down to his office. And he said, when I came in, Shugan introduced me to the other staff members and he said, that's your desk over there. Just go and sit. And he brought in, the public service, you had to fill in all the papers to apply and so on and send it to the public service, all of that. Well, everything was handed to me right there on the desk. I filled in everything right there. He took it and we did whatever. He went to the public service, and that was it, And I spent 20 plus years at the GIS. I came back as a consultant. I left as head of production. I came back as a consultant recently there, and my contract was not renewed, and that's it. In my years at the GIS, I did quite a few. I won how many awards, radio awards. I produced a number of features, both Creole and English. I went to Jamaica to study, came back. I went back. I went to the college to do management, and a few courses here and there, and travel a few places on government business. And I went to Dominica. One of my greatest experience was to cover the funeral of the late Rosie Douglas. I sent you that video.
It just could not open, so tell us a little bit about it, please.
About?
I said I just couldn't open that video. Can you just tell us about that broadcast that you did in Dominica?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, when the Prime Minister passed. Now, interestingly, maybe a year or two, a few years before that, I came to Dominica on a weekend, to spend a weekend. And I was at that small guest house in Roseau. And a university colleague of mine, I'm sure you know this gentleman, Dr. Spencer Settles from Granby, is based in Roseau, I suppose.
My very good friend.
Your good friend?
Yeah, my very good friend.
He ignored me. He ignored me completely. I was in contact with him, and I lost contact with this gentleman completely. Dr. Spencer, we met in Jamaica, and we were on Irving Hall, Block B. He was the next room to me, and when he heard that I was from St. Lucia, he came to me. A staunch Catholic, this guy, and we became very good friends. And he had lots of. You remember those comics, the cowboys, the Romans, the agents.
Archie and.
This man had stacks and stacks of these comics, and they were crisp, clean. And he said to me, and look, let me tell you something, Cecil. We spoke Creole almost all the time. And he would tell me, look, and
that's not his fault, because he's from the community where the people speak quite a lot of Creole, Granby.
Right. And then his father, he said, was a school teacher, principal. His dad was a principal in Granby. Yet still, he said his dad used to make charcoals and did everything, garden and everything. But he was a very disciplinarian. And as a Catholic, you know what it is. And I used to go to church. There was a church in Papin. I can't remember the name of the place. And we would go to church, myself, him, Dr. Who's now PhD, General Charles in Antigua now, and others, would go to church. And I had a good experience.
Hold on, you're saying to me that I trying to remember that church in Papin, where all the bosses used to be.
Before you get to Papin, it's very close to the. When you're on your way to Papin from the university.
That's before you meet the Hope Road.
Right, the Hope Road is on the left side.
On the other side. Yes.
On the other side.
Yes.
You on your way to Papin. The church is Catholic church is not too far from the road.
Maybe because I am not a Catholic, that's why I never knew of the Catholic church.
When I myself was in Tiller Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you are.
I studied in Jamaica.
Tiller Hall, all the way down there. So
I was in Tiller Hall. You stay in Tiller Hall.
You can just get into the gate and
then you go to Tiller Hall, and then you look on the other side.
Yes.
The moody fellas.
But the bad guys.
So we are bad fellas,
The bad guys. The bad guys.
So they have Chancellor Hall on the other side.
Chancellor, those crazy fellas.
Yeah. Crazy fellas.
But Chancellor guys are always intelligent guys.
Right. And
Irving Hall was that's why most of the prime ministers.
Very bad fellas.
Yeah.
Irving Hall.
Yeah, Irving Hall was a respectable.
No, very respectable.
Hall.
Yes.
Very respectable.
But Taylor Hall was crazy.
Yeah,
man,
I
crazy.
had my friend
And
Dr. Charles.
don't blame them, because they were right next to the gates to get into
Yeah, man,
Papin.
be crazy, be crazy.
So
fella.
Yeah,
you
I
don't
know
blame
they were
them.
all the way at the end. So,
Yeah.
So,
blame
Cecil,
them.
the Catholic Church, when you pass by the hospital, you get a parking just on the other
and
side.
that big building right at the back of the
Yeah,
hospital.
right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Next
that
to
was
the
a good experience I had with
what you call that
Spencer.
university, the other university,
But I
the
Doctor,
really would love to.
how they call that
to
now? That technical school.
technical, yeah, right. It's close to
Yeah,
it, yes.
what is it?
Yeah.
There's a gentleman who went while I was up there. He was at the technical school. How do you call it? But it's now a university.
It's a
It's been
university,
upgraded to a
Yeah.
university.
Yeah. Now let me ask you before you go into the whole meat of the matter. You ever went to Mirage on a Wednesday night?
So that I missed that.
You ever went to Mirage on a Wednesday night?
I went to a few places with my Jamaican friends. I cannot remember. It's been a while, and I was in 19.
Primus, you had to
I
go.
went-
You had to go to Mirage.
You went to Mirage, boy,
But
Cecil,
you have
boy,
to,
boy, he's a terrible
but
fella.
you have to go to Mirage. I remember just as we're speaking. I remember one day, a Jamaican guy says to me,
Cecil,
"Yes."
I went to a few places. I cannot remember everywhere.
I was just giving you the story of I was planning to go to Trenchtown.
Okay.
So here am I. Professor Brown is saying to me, he heard the guy saying to me for us to go to Trenchtown. So Professor Brown pulled me on the side and he says, Mr. Joseph, do you really want to go to Trenchtown? I said, yes, sir. So he says to me, well, go, whatever you find, come back and tell me. And I changed my mind.
Wow. I wouldn't. There's certain places we were on the way to Ocho Rios. And we stopped Spanish Town, the bus stop there, and people were pushing fruits like oranges, canes, and cream, and the children, the students were about to buy, and somebody said, no, do not buy anything, don't push your hands out there with money. The fellas will slash you, and they'll take your money, and they'll, so don't do that. Spanish Town, just get out of there as quickly as you can.
Some of the nice experience in Jamaica is when you're going down to Kingston,
Right.
and on these long buses, and they have to tell you, squeeze up yourself.
Step up.
Squeeze up yourself.
But just not to tell him that, I was the deputy principal in the school in Spanish Town. That's where I did my teaching practice. Across the bridge.
And I feel sorry. Let me tell you, there were some teachers, Jamaicans and St. Lucians, who were going to that college downtown. And my God, I pity them. And nothing really happened. You know what actually happened? I mean, I went to downtown once and I said, never be again. I ain't going downtown. There was this gathering of graduates. Walcott had just won the Nobel thing, and a few of us, all these people came up, and this guy was there who passed recently, the former director of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Vena, because his two children who attended, his daughter and son were attending university at the same time with me. And so we had this big session, gathering of graduates came there, big thing, and all the different islands prepared their dishes and so on. So we were there having fun. The ladies from the college downtown came, and it was after 11, and they decided they're going back down. So I now new to Jamaica. I said, okay, we'll walk you all. There was a Vinci guy. There was a lady. She became principal of the Boca Secondary, but I know her, she's still around. And quite a few others. And another friend of mine, she died, she passed. And we walked them to the bus stop. You know the Augustown Gap there? From the University Road?
Yes,
and the
sure.
Augustown Gap.
Yeah,
there's a bus stand just there, bus stop.
Yeah.
So we stood there after 11 in the evening, waiting for a bus, not knowing that was the worst time there to wait. And I saw the guys. I saw them walk past. But I didn't pay attention to them because we had a few drinks. And before I could blink my eye, them fellas pounced on us. I never seen knives so long. And the guys demanded money and so on. And all I can remember, This particular guy grabbed my left wrist and he had this knife to my throat. Cecil, fortunately, and God, boy, God, thank you, God, I was not facing the Augustown Road. Because if that is where I was facing, that's where I would head. I was facing the university gate. So when I pulled away from him, I felt that I no longer was in his grasp. I pelted. I fell. I rolled. I lost my university ID card. All my shirt was torn. I came in there and I was like almost fainted. And by the time I got there, the news had spread that they attacked us. And the Alma, the one who died, she was a little fat. She couldn't run. She was at the back. And when this girl, the other girl came running, oh my God, they killed Alma. They killed Alma. And she started screaming. So the guys normally at the gate, at the thing, how do you call them? They would be there working late and so on, whatever time, they work shifts. The guys came out to look, and then while we were there, we saw Alma Kim walking very slowly. She said they took her bag, they took whatever is in it, but they didn't do her anything. Because the thing is, the police station, you know the police station on campus?
Yeah.
That wasn't too far.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and then the next day, the inspector came and he wanted us to give statement by. I told him, man, I see the guys, I don't know, I know nothing. But I stayed sick. A whole week I couldn't go to class, you know. That was a terrible experience. And that was my only experience in Jamaica as far as that is concerned. I never had any other experience, frightening experience after that.
Okay.
You know.
All right.
But I did a few things, you know.
So now we were talking basically about you in journalism and how you were able to get how the yard was able to influence you.
Yeah, we're going back
to
to that. Yeah. So I did the workshop and then long story short, Matthew brought me to GIS and I was the Creole representative at the GIS. I did Creole for quite a while. It covering different ministries and so on and all of that. But I was not satisfied with that. I wanted to do one. Knowing Matthew Roberts, before he left, he made sure that we were well-rounded. And so I started doing other programs. I started doing interviews, both English Creole, and started building up my expertise and so on and all of that. And then I did all the ministries and so on. And there was a time when we allotted certain ministries. And this time, what we had was the UR. I don't know if you're familiar with the UR. It was a real tip recorder with an extended microphone that you attach to it. And it was like it had a strap you could carry on your side, you know. And then we were recording interviews with the real UR. And then we had what you call an eraser. So after we recorded, if it was an information that we didn't need anymore, we would erase it and use that same reel to record another interview. And everything was real. In the studio, it was real. But we went to Radio St. Lucia to do our recording. So it would be recorded there, and they would play it, and we'd take the tapes, a copy to Radio Caribbean at the time, and Radio St. Lucia. That was long before Radio 100 came, and so on. And that was my experience. I was so in love with my job. I got a chance to travel around the island. I leave home very early. I used to be almost the next person at GIS. Matthew Roberts would have been there by 7:30. And so on. So I met a lot of people. I mean, expanded my horizon and so on. And people like Titus Sprayville and others. I learned so much from them, and the late Lufa Foster's dad, Hunter Foster, was a former Minister of Education. Helped me quite a bit, you know, and Margaret Roberts Steele and others. It was quite an experience. I wanted to do more and more, so I pushed myself, you know, and then I developed an interest in production, and that is where I did most of my work until I became head of production. When they started the UE certificate program, my mom was already sick in bed. She was confined to bed. I did that. I was reluctant. but it was a tough program. It was like a 2-year program into one. But I did quite well. And then that was my preparation to go to Jamaica. But by the time I was ready to go to Jamaica, my mom had gotten too sick and I really didn't want to go. And Titus said to me, look, Primus, I don't want to be hard on you, but it's your future you're thinking of. Your mom, whether you go to Jamaica or not, if she has to pass, she'll pass. So don't lose that opportunity. And that's how I went. And when I came back, mom lived for how many years before she passed, and so on. And I interviewed quite a few. I think I interviewed 3 prime ministers, Dominican prime ministers. Margaret, Eugenia Charles. I still have the recordings there. I did the gentleman. What's his name? He's still alive.
Edison James.
Edison James. I did the other prime minister who passed. We became good friends, and that really hurt me because we had become, because he told me he had relatives down here.
Pierre Charles?
Pierre Charles. And I have a television interview with him. This guy was such a warm-hearted gentleman. When he died, when I heard of his death, I cried like a child. I mean, the man got to know me the first day the man got to know me. We just, strike, there was a connection, And when I heard of his death, man, that was so, I couldn't attend his funeral and so on. I met Rosie Douglas before his death when I was in Dominica on the weekend when St. Louis came to pick me up. He came, he said, we're going out. Have you ever been to Portsmouth? Now, I can't remember being to Portsmouth. He said, well, we're going to Portsmouth tonight. He took me in his car and we drove to Portsmouth. And he entered that bar. And while we were there, we were introduced to a gentleman standing there. There was another gentleman, and then he's telling me, do you know this person? I said, no, I don't know this person at all. And the gentleman is looking at me smiling. He said, this is the Prime Minister, Rosie Douglas. So casual inside the shop, Then this gentleman came and said, one thing, you're not interviewed my Prime Minister, And he just smiled and so on. And we shook hands. And I said that I would love to arrange an interview with him. He said, anytime I'm ready. I said, well, I don't live in Dominica. I live in St. Lucia. So anytime he visits, I will be too happy to interview him. And, well, he passed. But I was able to do to cover his funeral.
No, Primus, I know that you also did music, or you're still doing music.
Yes, I do.
Right. And that again, you give credence to Dominica when you came to Dominica.
Yes, well, that's it. When I came to Dominica, as I said, Major Johnson was the director. It was at first a tough experience, the agriculture aspect of it. We had to develop the area we had ruminants, and the cows, goats, and we had goats as well. We had the pigs, we had the poultry, then we had the construction and the auto mechanics. In fact, Ophelia's nephew or cousin, Oliver Che, I think he was head of the mechanic department. I don't know if this guy's. I spoke to Ophelia just recently there. I think 2 days ago. I forgot to. He was in charge of the auto. So, and I tell you, Camp Boys really had an impact in Dominica. We became very popular. In fact, I don't know if you remember by training.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Well, Camp Boys would go by training and get stuff, and pay after. By training really had a good relationship with us, and so on. And then we were doing very well in sports. We dominated sports in Dominica. I played for the cricket for the team. There were the cycling, the athletes, and so on. Camp Boys were just it. And then that's how I got to know all the bands with Gillots, Major Johnson brought in the Gaylords, with Bingo and Lord
Bricker.
Yeah, Bricker and them. Then the boys and them with
Philip Osford.
With that keyboard fella who plays
Fitzroy Williams.
Fitzroy, yeah. So much so that a time when Fitzroy was hospitalized, one of my colleagues from Denver, he since passed, became very good friends with Fitzroy because they were at the same hospital bed. Then Swinging Stars came into play. And then we had our own band with Peter Coffey. I don't know this guy, if he's still alive or if he's still in St. Lucia, in Dominica. Peter Coffey was the lead guitarist. Lily, I'm sure
he's still around.
He's here. He's
still around.
He lives in Goodwill.
Peter Coffey?
Yeah, he lives in Goodwill.
Oh, give him my regards.
I certainly will.
Lily, the drummer. Lily became a Calypsonian. I'm sure you would have heard of Lily.
Is it President Lily?
President Lily, yes.
Yeah, the dark skin,
short guy.
Yeah.
I never realized. Yeah. I never knew that Lily was a drummer.
He was a drummer. Yeah.
Right. He played drums for the band.
That's the very first time I'm hearing that. I know that he's a Calypsonian.
I forgot the bass man's name. Then the guy who did the rhythm was named Amundsen, and then Billy Fountain sang with them. And Billy Fountain taught me to play three major chords: A, C, and A, C, and D. I think, and D. I think A, C, and D, and so on. So three major chords, and Billy would just play and sing and just compose songs. And I don't know if he's still alive. Billy had a fantastic voice, and I think he became a Calypsonian after he sang. Just like Lily, they competed in the Calypso. Yeah, he was a sort of a bandy leg fella, and I know he's related to the Fountains and so on. I don't know what is his position now, if you heard of him at all, Billy Fountain. And he taught me to play guitar. And when I got back home, there was the church band. I came back to the church, and then I took over, and that was it. I played for the band, the church band, and I played in church for many years. Then I joined other bands, played with them for quite a while, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to record. I composed quite a few songs. The Rib of Seven, I'm sure you must have heard of the Rib of Seven. When they split, I became part of the other members of the band, and we were going to record. The guys who moved away, they went and recorded, and they called themselves Rib of Seven Original, because we maintained the name Rib of Seven. And when we were going to record, things went wrong. The band leader had problems, and the band broke up, and so on. And I decided that I better give up with music. I was with the GIS then, and I decided that. But my experience in Dominica was an exciting one. We performed at I think it's the Arawak or Carib Cinema, and I sang that song without any musical accompaniment. I'm going to wait till the midnight hour, and to see me going down and splitting, and the crowd going, yay! And then we had the Londonderry Harmonettes. That was the steel band. The Trinidadian lecturers formed a steel band. And for Carnival, for the 2 years we played for Carnival. When I left Dominica after graduation, I came here. The guy from Denry, what's his name now? I can't remember. Fitzroy Williams' good friend. They called us back to play for Carnival. So the two of us came back up just to play for Carnival with the Londonderry Harmonettes. You know, this band recorded, after we left Dominica, they recorded an album, Londonderry Harmonites. I
must make a research. I must make a research on that group. And
yeah,
anybody that's hearing that interview from the northeast of Dominica, you can get in touch with me so that I can really get those guys, so we can get much more information from what Primus.
Yeah, the album must be somewhere in DBS's studio.
Yes, I'll look for that for sure. Londonderry Harmonites.
Yeah, man, they must be there. But at that time, I had already left, and so on. We played on the street. You know, we had shows at either Carib or Arawak, I can't remember. And that was a great experience. And you know, at the time we were at camp, we had no shower. We had to go to the river. You know that big river that crosses the bridge in Londonderry.
Yeah.
There was
Yes.
the
Yes.
field was at the bottom.
It is still there. The field is still there. The big
All
field,
right,
the big
so
field is still
we
there.
go to we'll go to Marigo to the health center to see the doctor. We'd go to Wesley to church, you know, and then all the fellas like the Bells combo guys, they used to come on campus sometimes to play table tennis. All the way from there they would come. The Gaylord, not Gaylords.
Boys and them. Boys and them.
No, not boys and them. Jeff Joseph, Gramax.
Gramax.
There were two brothers at the camp. Peter, Kalai Eugene, and his brother, Peter Eugene. Peter, his other name. There was another name that is well known. Not Peter. He's not. But anyway, he was so into music. He loved musicians, and this man got in touch with Jeff, and we went to St. Joe. And the time the fellas had just formed the band, they had it on top of a bar, and Jeff's house was on a little hill, not too far, and he was not too well at the time, and we went there to see him, and then and then Eugene, Peter, what's his first name again? Yeah, became very close friends until the man's death, and when years after, a good partner of mine who lives in St. Lucian, an artist who lives in Cayenne, Jeff Nolly, brought Jeff down because there was this, I think at the time, Ophelia and them and some other guys, I think, was it one of the Framptons, they were organizing the music festival. I think the World Creole Music Festival was just beginning to kick off, and they came here to promote the thing, and then they were having some activity down here, and Jeff came down, and Nolly brought Jeff to GIS, and when Nolly came, he said, "Primus, do you know this man?" And I'm looking at Jeff, and I didn't recognize the guy. And Jeff looked at me and he's smiling because he had not seen me long time. I had not seen him. And then Nolly said, "But that's Jeff Joseph." And I screamed, Cecil inside the studio. Everybody came out watching. And we hugged each other and I interviewed him. And I cannot find that interview. And he did a jingle for me for my program. I think I have that jingle somewhere. You know, when he died, that was so painful. I followed the ceremony, you know, and well, it was and when I heard that some of the artists were not very supportive, and it was only Midnight Groovers who came to have that show in honor of him, and Ophelia sang at the funeral and so on. You know, that's been my experience with Dominica.
I also know, Primus, that Midnight Groovers, where the old school was in Jacmel, by the Savannah area there, that close to the health center, that Midnight Groovers used to play quite a lot of times in Jacmel.
Yeah, they came to play Jacmel. They played a place called Lakou. In fact, the band leader, what's his name now?
There's you're talking about Co, or you're talking about Marcel? Which one?
No, not Co.
Chubby.
Chubby.
Yes.
Chubby was such a good friend to the same guy who had the truck that used to transport us up and down, Firefly. Chubby would be down here spending weekend by Firefly. You know, they were such good friends because the Midnight Rovers used to play there very often. They played in our area as well. You know, they were one of the most popular bands from Dominica who played there. They've had a large following. You know, I know these guys came down here to play Bells Combo, and they had a sour experience down south with True Tones. And when they came back up, we used to call the lead guitarist Dawi because he's, yeah, you know, but just a way of saying never, you know. But he was a nice guy. And then when he came, he was very cold with us because of his experience he had in St. Lucia and so on. One of our students, at the camp became his drummer, became a drummer to the Bells Combo after that. A fatty, chubby fella. He recorded with the Bells Combo.
Is it Big Six?
What's his name? What name did you say?
Big Six.
No, if I see the album, one of the old album, I can't remember how many, but if I see the name, I will remember. But he was big. He was a chubby guy, and he became a drummer for the Bells Combo,
No,
even
I was saying to you, for your yard, the work that you did in your yard in the early days, you have found yourself getting quite a number of accolades, awards in St. Lucia. Help us to have a greater understanding of those accolades that you received.
Okay, most of what I got was through my work in media. I was a community activist. I was chairman of the Disaster Preparedness Committee. I was chairman of the National Day Committee. I was recognized for both of these responsibilities I had. Then in media, I produced quite a few radio and television features. Some of them I won best radio production, best this, best that, and I got the awards. They're all there. But what gave me the greatest joy was when the government, when I was awarded the Medal of Merit Gold. That is the second highest medal that one can receive. There's the cross, what do you call it, whatever it is, whatever, I can't remember the nomenclature anyway. But then there's a merit, the Medal of Merit Gold and the Medal of Merit Silver, and then it goes down and so on, and then the others are the what you get from England, the OBEs and so on. So I got that, and then just recently the FRC awarded a lot of us who contributed to Koyal production, and we were honored, for our services to Koyal and so on. That I received as well, and a few others and so on that I've done. And I'm also a justice of the peace. That's one of the services that I have done. And the last thing that I don't know how long I'll remain on this earth, but I really wanted to do it to document the history of the Ros Valley, and that I was leading a research team, and it took us a long time to document everything. But the book, by God's grace, should be published later this year, maybe mid-year or so. You can always purchase a copy online. I'll let you know. You have to help us, assist us.
And anything that deals with documentation, I am in that. For sure, I will for sure purchase. I would like to purchase a hard copy. I love my hard copies.
Yeah, we will have. We're supposed to get. Amazon is sending us 2 copies. We will order from them 2 copies just to have a look at them to make sure that they are exactly how we want it to be, and then we will decide to print. Then we have one of our sponsors, the St. Lucia Distillers. Of course, the reason why St. Lucia Distillers, because they played a serious role in the development of agriculture and industry in Roseau. They played a pivotal role in the social and economic development of the Roseau Valley. They become an award-winning company. They won so many awards with all of their spirits. The Bounty, the Chairman Reserve, and so on. Quite a few spirits. I'm sure you. I don't know if you ever visited.
As a matter of fact, my daughter grandfather, my daughter grandfather actually was an employee of the distillery.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You're right about that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I would have visited the place a few times.
Yeah, and
not to drink. Not to drink.
The grandmother was I don't know if she still owns one of the model farms.
Yeah, she owns. To this present, she still owns a model farm.
All right,
yeah,
good.
So I had a piece of both agriculture and that of the distillery. You know, and there are times, you know, that I am from the distillery. I just go in the sea and bathe.
But you can't. You remember the first time I met you? It was at a cousin of mine, Teresa. She passed there suddenly many years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
On the other side
on the hill.
road. Yeah, we met there. I think that's the first time I don't know if that was the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teresa was Teresa was a very nice lady, you know, very cool.
Very nice
lady.
Yeah, she died suddenly. That was one of the saddest funerals we ever had in our community.
Yes, and the neighborhood themselves took that very hard, you know, especially people like Olga herself.
Extremely, and she had just returned from church.
Yes.
That Sunday.
So Beverly and all of the children of hers.
Beverly's still teaching at the Jackman School. The other daughter is teaching at the Lakou School. The husband is the head of the Bodley Correctional Facility. You know, the boys are in England and so on. Yeah, so you know the children are doing okay.
Yes,
quite okay.
Yeah, I know Jackman was my home.
You're coming and check me. You don't want me to do your business. You drop it in there. I have to put. That's why I will have to put my spies on you. You know, you're coming in the area and you're coming and check me. You know.
I'm building a new home in Jackmel now.
All right, this is wonderful.
So when I come to Jackmel, I can always invite you for a bottle of water.
I will still take it. Don't worry. I will still accept the bottle.
But you'll have to climb up the hill.
Don't worry. I'm used to that.
No. Primus, in reference to Dominica, St. Lucia, what is the common Lakou you would have seen in those two communities, these two countries?
Well, it's been a while, but I suspect the what I saw when I was at the camp, the people still did the laundry. You know, the river next to us. The residents from Wesley and closer to us, they would come to the river to do their laundry. A lot of the farming and so on, the Creole, the music, you know, the ballet, the Xingping, although it's sort of a little different to us, the Lakou and all of that, you know. A lot of the cultural practices, the beliefs, the cultural experiences, you know, very little difference, you know. So you feel at home, you know, being in Dominica and Dominica being here, you know. And I've met a few other Dominicans, you know. Parallel was one of those that I knew very well. He became an official of the American, one of those insurance companies in Dominica. I think American, whatever.
British American. It was called British American.
British American. I don't know if Parallel is still alive. The wife used to be down here very often at one time because, well, actually, Parallel was a closest. Had a very good friend, one of the students up there. They were very close. I wasn't very close to him, but we knew each other, and so on. But most of the Dominicans who were at the camp, I never really met them after. I never met them after. I'm glad to hear that Peter Cafe is still alive. I never met Major Johnson. The only person I met after was this guy who was holding on for Major Johnson when he was on vacation, Pierre. And Pierre became the acting, or was not acting, he was police commissioner in St. Lucia for a while. Well, yeah.
Yes. In Dominica?
I'm not sure. Yeah, Pierre from Dominica.
Yes.
Pierre something. He was commissioner in St. Lucia for a while. And I don't know if he's still alive. And I went to visit him because he had a special liking for St. Lucians. You know, the chef at the camp, a Dominican, we call him chef. I can't remember his name. Was married to a St. Lucian. I don't know. He used to visit me at times when he was down here. I don't know where he is now. But I really would have loved to know whether Billy Fontaine is alive and Lily. Because Lily used to make fun of me.
Lily's alive and well.
He's alive and well.
And Peter Coffey as well.
Peter Coffey is well.
Yes.
Okay, great, wonderful. I would love to see
and
these guys.
I'm sure that if they're not listening, but someone will give them the message,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
will for
Yeah,
sure
because
they will for sure get in touch with me, and I'll give them your number.
Right. I'll make Peter Coffey get in touch with you,
Great,
Cecil.
wonderful. When I was up there, my surname was Marysil, Primus Marysil, which was not really my. That's why it was not really my surname. By the time I was ready to do my passport and everything legally, and then I discovered that I had to carry my mom's name, Hutchinson, and that's how I got to be Hutchinson. But when I was in America, I was known as Marisol. I remember Major Johnson would shout me from a distance, Marisol! You know, he had this military thing about him, you know. Anderson is in Florida, I believe. He's of age now, but he instilled in us a certain level of discipline as a former military man and so on. I joined the cadet corps, and we had some guy training us. But after a while, I decided that wasn't for me. The training was too hard. I gave up on that, you know, and so on. But it was quite an experience in Dominica for the 2 years.
Well, I too, like you, in terms of looking at the comparison of our yard, it's as you rightly said, it's very similar. There's a few things that we tweak here and there. So, for instance, the Creole, you see Norse for marriage, we say maye, you know.
Right.
So when you
Right.
when someone say
Yeah,
where Nosla, it's not that you're gonna say visit the nurse.
right.
You're gonna say
I'm sure
marriage.
names
Jabal. We don't say Jabal. We say Kobos. You know.
Right, and it's the same thing. We say Cobos as well,
Right.
but Jabal is a more popular term. But we say Cobos as well. But the Jabal is more of a more acceptable, not acceptable, but more popular term. I think the Baja is Babaule or something like that, and then the Yampe for Boape and
You say Boape.
and so on.
You say Boape. We say Yampe. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so that but I was, you know, my greatest fascination was the bands. You know, when bells, because before I came up to Dominica, I used to hear about the bells combo and the Gaylords and Swinging Stars, and I saw all of these groups performed up there, all of them. You know, they came on camp to perform, and the environs, the communities, Marigo, Wesley, Woodford Hill, and people came in to the camp to dance, you know.
That's amazing.
And it was a great experience, man. Great experience.
I would have liked to know. I would have liked to interview someone in your time at that camp to give us their own experience, like how you just did.
I think Peter Coffey would be.
Peter Coffey would be the ideal man.
Yes.
He would do amazingly well. He would have all the information and so on.
I'll try.
Yeah,
Brain will try to get.
I'll contact him for you.
Yeah, so I will have that interview with him for sure.
He was a supervisor, and he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. He was really a nice guy, you know.
But like you, I have quite a lot of friends in St. Lucia.
Of course you do.
For instance, Joachim Henry is my very, very, very good friend.
Right.
Also, Mr. Frederick, very close.
Yeah, Richard. Right.
Yes. G. Pierre, you know.
Yes, the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister, you know. We have had several conversations. We're very good.
Right. Good name to say, look at that.
Okay. Alexis, Armstrong Alexis, you know.
We were in Jamaica together.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the president of the
of the student
association.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not where I met him. I met him first. We both went to North Korea together in 1989. We both went to Korea for a number of weeks. And then after we met in at UE Mono Campus in Jamaica.
Right.
He too was in Irving Hall at the time.
Okay.
So Wally is a principal of a school in St. Lucia.
Wally, of course I know Wally.
Right,
Wally Ansley.
Right. I know so many people in St. Lucia. I mean, quite a lot.
You're a major star, man. You can't help not knowing people in St. Lucia. I'm not like you.
I don't know about the major star, but I just know that.
I'm giving you the honor. I don't know that many people, except for Dr. St. Luce, who I have not met in many years, and Ophelia, who we kept in contact very often. I spoke to her just a few days ago. And then my good spa, the former broadcaster who passed,
Felix,
my finger.
Felix Henderson.
Of course, your noted broadcaster, Creole, and everything else. What's his name?
Felix Henderson. Felix
Henderson. Yeah. Because of our Creole connection and so on, we became good friends. And so we didn't communicate often, but we were, because of the Creole and so on, so we knock it off and so on.
I always tell people that thank God for the birth of Felix Henderson, not that because he's a Dominican, but for what he has made Creole be today.
Fantastic.
Without his efforts, priceless efforts.
Yes, man. I think
we can't put a dollar sign to it. I mean,
Dominican need to honor this gentleman.
Yeah, he was an amazing creature, an amazing individual.
There's no way I can fit anywhere in this man's shoes.
Yes.
I think you all really need to honor this man at the highest level. I think posthumously.
I think he was honored before he passed.
Okay.
He was honored before he passed. But the point is that he has done so much for Creole in the region, to include Haiti, to include St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Martinique. What he has done for the language, because once upon a time, as I always tell people, that Creole for some people is like a bastard child.
Right,
but
there
Felix adopted.
He elevated the language.
And then made it his child. His
child. And he did it in a unique fashion.
Unique way.
Yes.
He caused other people to want to put books together. I think even he worked together with the Governor General of St. Lucia. I'm trying to remember her name.
Dave Paulette.
Yes, Dave Paulette, right. He worked together with her to expand the language. They went together.
Some tremendous work, remarkable work.
Oh, yes.
Very commendable.
Yes, and I think whenever we speak Creole, or whenever we have big discussion of Creole, we must always remember Felix Henderson.
Felix Henderson. Yeah, man. God rest his soul.
Yeah, he was an amazing... and as I said, that he was born for that.
I hope they can also create a sort of a scholarship fund in his name.
As a matter of fact, my Studio 2 now has been named after him. So the studio now is named Felix Henderson Studio. Before we would say Studio 2, we now say Felix Henderson Studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, yeah. I know that you said, as we're coming to the end of the program, I know that you said that once when you first called, when you heard the language discussion that we had,
yes,
you said that you would have liked to see or hear a program of that nature in St. Lucia. What do you think of our programming of that nature, like the Lakou program?
That's quite that's a program where the locals of different standing are given an opportunity to where they need to highlight what they have accomplished for their country, and what could be better than that? That is very commendable of you, Cecil. To let Dominicans recognize and accept and embrace those who have contributed significantly to this country, socially, economically, spiritually, what have you. And it couldn't have been better. So this, I mean, I can't even find a words to express, and really I would love to be able to produce a program of that nature here. Actually, I still feel that I would be able to do it. I did I did quite a few programs. I produced quite a few programs, but to have a program with continuity, like yours, this would have been really, really good. There have been programs before, and so on, and even when you said Lucia, they've had programs, but a program like this, like yours, that would be very welcomed, in St. Lucia. But unfortunately, a lot of our new radio personalities, they've, in my days, you were made to produce programs and radio programs. Radio programs are the most difficult programs to produce. Because you have to produce it in such a way that your listeners can hear and see at the same time. We had no visual, so it had to be produced in a manner that it grabs you. So your language, the way it's edited, sound, and all of that to produce a radio program. I don't know how many our young journalists and radio broadcasters who can do this now. Even in television, which is a lot easier. I mean, of course, you need to have the skills, but I mean, you capture, so you don't have much to say. The visual is there. You understand? People see, so you don't have much to say. You just capture and you present. Of course, your skills will see wherever will put you apart from others. But not much of that is happening anymore.
So let me ask. Knowing today that there are so many different gadgets that you can have to help in your development of your art, what do you think is lacking in this present dispensation in reference to production and radio production, television production?
I believe the gatekeepers. I put the blame on the gatekeepers. Because the gatekeepers are coming from our era, Cecil. Mm-hmm. They would have understood, and they have the wherewithal. But I guess what is really the hurdle there is that radio has become, broadcast journalism, and I don't say broadcast journalism. I think radio, it's all about, it's very competitive. Check news, for instance. Somebody just got there. People are competing. They want to grab the news and make it sensational, and so they don't have time to really sit down and to do the research. They go out there, they capture it first, and they throw it out there.
Whether the information is right or wrong.
It doesn't matter. They just want to be the first to have it. They have little time to. You should hear the way that people present the news nowadays, and then the grammar, the diction, the enunciation, all of that has gone down the drain. And nobody pays attention to it anymore.
I won't say that nobody pays attention to it. I believe that, as you said, the gatekeepers should take a little blame for it. But even sometimes when the gatekeepers are trying to do their best, these people have an environment that they figure that today it's the day, and today it's whatever they're doing is better than what we were doing.
Right, that's the other problem that they have a challenge. Even the gatekeepers is very challenging for them. So it's the new age. That's what they call it, the new age. So I recently there. I will mention him name Jerry again, who taught at Monroe, and some of those he taught at Monroe and trained. They one or two are looking back at Jerry and thinking that he's Neanderthal. His time is outdated. The man who trained you, so that tells you how serious this thing is, So broadcasting is really going to the dogs and so on. People say anything, they do anything. I realized that they still play some of my programs on NTN. I'm happy about that. At least some people can see it and probably gain something from it. And I believe that, and I mentioned that to Jerry recently, but they really don't. I think people are frustrated, so they don't really care. Let the young people do whatever they want. That, some of the more qualified and more experienced journalists would come together, collaborate on a program, just so that the younger ones can hear and see what it used to be and the standard. I mean, I listen now. Interestingly, Cecil, I am an ardent listener to the BBC, and the standards have dropped. I mean, considerably. The BBC.
I heard an announcer once said Moscow at BBC. Moscow.
Pronunciation. When I hear some pronunciation on the BBC, I say, what? What? And there's a new style now at the BBC. The presenters will talk, and then at the end they just whisper. They start to talk to you, and they say, so you can never hear the ending of whatever they're saying. I say, what? The BBC? So this thing is worldwide now, I believe. It's a global thing. I don't know how we can correct that.
So what's your advice?
I see your colleague, nodding his head and so on. Maybe he would probably want to add a few things based on his observance and so on.
Yeah, one of the qualities I find is that the English language in broadcasting has taken a turn for the worst.
It definitely has.
Because when you listen to BBC fellas like John Allott, man.
Oh, my goodness, man.
Doing cricket and some of his programs he produced.
Or even Sebastian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even
Hard
Talk, yes.
Or even a fella like Leslie Seans.
Oh, Leslie Seans was good.
There was a young African guy who died. He had potential as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed there was a crippled guy doing some of the programs, for BBC. He was an African guy, was extremely good. So your observation is quite good. Even CNN, I noticed.
Yeah.
The standards.
As for the Americans, but there is a particular radio station called LBC in London, whatever. But they're not too bad. They're not too bad. They're not too bad. It's a talk program. They call-in program. People call to discuss issues.
I must try to look for that radio station. LBC.
Right. I find that one of the radio stations that still maintain a good standard in English, excellent standard, is Sky News.
Oh, yeah. I haven't listened to them very often, but I was given an opportunity to do that. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah,
Sky's British.
Yes, British. Yes, Sky News. Yeah.
Sky's British.
Yes.
So, what advice would you give to the young children? You realize I'm using the word children, not kids. I heard you said kids a few times. I would follow the route of Jerry and others who taught me and so on. I don't want to be under the firing head of these people. They always believe that, what do you know? What have you, even your accomplishments and so on is not of very importance to some of them. Some, I must admit, there are those who will admit that, okay, these people have accomplished and they can teach us a few things. And I was, just before my last term at the GIS as a consultant, I was given to students from the youth council who was supposed to we wanted to use as broadcasters for the House of Assembly, and they brought them in and they called me to conduct a session with them, and I did. Very articulate gentleman and lady. I conducted that, and they were very attentive, and they did extremely well, and then people called me and said, boy, whatever you did with these people. And it wasn't much that I did, I just gave them certain guidelines and they were ready to grab.
and go along with it. So when they went in there, they were just prepared, you know. So people who are prepared to learn, we can work. But otherwise,
one of the concerns that I have presently, when people like yourself came into the media, the dollar sign wasn't most important, but more or less
just like music.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a question of money. Let me tell you, I was producing a feature on the two communities in Soufrière. One below the Peters, fortunately, there's a lot of history, slavery and all, and another little community called Bouton. And then, you know, at one time we went down there and we were shooting. And while we were shooting, we saw a cultural group from Soufrière. Actually, the leader who was in Jamaica together with me died suddenly. I think he was buried recently there, because he was a teacher, Rastafarian and so on. So we saw the group. We said, we asked them when are they going to perform? They said they'll be performing late at night. They want the moon to be out and with the lights and so on. So I told my technician and the driver, are you all prepared to stay with me? We stayed back. The guy said, not a problem. We had friends around the area. They prepared something for us to eat. And we left Bouton after 1 in the morning just to capture this space. And another experience in Frizzell, I think we left after midnight because we wanted to stay back. And then the next day we had to be at work. We had to be at work. You know how many times I stayed in office 7 o'clock in the evening, and then I'm going home. Of course, there are times when you claim overtime, but there are times when you don't have to claim overtime because you didn't have to stay back. You just choose to, you know. Sundays, I'll take a drive to the office to complete something so that by Monday, you know, it's not on my back, and so on. Even at Radio St. Lucia, you know, you work at odd times. You just come in and you don't know when you're going back home. That doesn't apply anymore. None of our young people will want to stay back and go through all that hassle for you now. Not anymore.
As a matter of fact, they tell you 8 hours is 8 hours.
There you are. There you are. So
I'm not talking about my institution. I'm just saying what you said about young people. So I'm just telling you that young people, they tell you 8 hours is 8 hours.
No.
That's a reflection of what my
the thing about it. Mm-hmm. You must understand is a work attitude, you know.
Well, yes, that's correct.
Work ethics. Mm-hmm. For instance,
Okay.
what I find is that people long ago had an ethics about work. And it was a certain discipline. You come to work on time.
Very true.
But you do not only work from 8 to 4. You go the extra mile. And there's another thing called enjoying your job. You know, he wanted to be a broadcaster. He wanted to work in radio. So in other words, there's job satisfaction. People don't only look for the money. Once you're satisfied with the work that you're doing, you're producing, you know, you're bringing some new knowledge to people. And so it makes you feel happy. So you go the extra mile, you know, so you don't look for time. But you see the attitude of young people towards work. You know, it's totally different.
My staff, up to this day, I have a good relationship with them. So much so that there's one in particular who takes time to come to see me almost every now and then. And when I'm out with my guys, Cecil, there's no way, and ask any one of them, there's no way that somebody will come there and say, that looks like this guy is in charge of this group. We work as a team, you know. The only time you might probably feel that I might be in charge is if somebody come and say, well, Pride, what do you think? And so on. Everybody, I would go to the technician, the driver, anybody, and say, boy, I'm trying to do this there. How do you say that? Mm-hmm. You know, and we'll sit there and say, boy, I think, why not try this and so on? And we go. And all of us work together. And when I get back to office, you know, we have a comprehensive approach to everything. That is how, and then I won, what they call the award, supervisor of the year award. And it's because the staff and us, we work as a team, as a family, as a family. There's a particular guy who came in late, and the man said I was his second father. He saw me, and the man, he treated me like that, as a second father. That is how the kind of relationship you develop in the workplace, That doesn't, when I last worked at the GIS, by 7 o'clock, I was already in office. People walking in 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, they're gone. By 3 o'clock, they're gone. 3:30. Luckily, some will stay back if they have, duties and so on to do, and if they have assignments and so on. Gone. And that's across the board, across the board. This is how it is. That's the new ethics.
I like that, the new ethics. But
Yes.
but it was really nice talking to you tonight. You have given us
It was indeed my pleasure.
the situation
I'm
in
happy
St.
that
Lucia.
you invited me in. And that's why I'll give you an honorary
Pass
what
to
do you
St.
call
Lucia.
it? Jack-
To I don't have to wait for you to give that to me. I have that already. I have that already.
No, I'm a justice of the peace, so I put a stamp on
Yes,
it.
you put a stamp on it. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Before I enter the gate of Jackman, I have to get that stamp.
Well, one of the things we can always say, he'll authenticate it.
But I'll have to stand by the small bridge that is crossing the river and wait for and I say I'll get the justice of peace.
The JP.
We won't allow you. We won't relegate you to that. You're my partner.
Yeah, man. Anyway, it was good for him.
Yes, but I must say I enjoyed our rapper tonight. It was a real good
thanks.
chat.
Thanks.
You were able to identify the things that you raised in, and we too, I'm sure Dominicans at home who are listening would have said or looking would have said, yeah,
Yes.
that too is in my community. That too we did it, and that too we did it this way too. So it was really a good eye opener for us, so that we could know and take note that there's not much of a difference economically, socially, even in the issues, even in issues of governance, the things that every country would go through. So whatever happens in Dominica also happens in St. Lucia. If you talk about unemployment in Dominica, you should also talk about unemployment in St. Lucia. If you're talking about employment or good economies in Dominica, you can talk about good economies in St. Lucia. So basically, we are always on the same path. Our GDPs are always almost the same. Some countries will say my GDP is better than yours, and so on, by virtue of business that you do. But at the end of the day, our countries are similar. I'm going to try to get Grenada soon, because we know soon from now they'll be celebrating the revolution, the 9 years of the revolution, and
that would be an interesting program.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to get people that I know that were in the revolution, that played a role and played a part in the revolution in Grenada.
Very true.
So that they too can give us the Lakou story of the revolution, because the revolution would have to start in a yard, at someone's place, in a basement, in some place where people had privacy and decided that's what they're going to do.
But that Cord is still alive, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's in Canada, and I remember trying to get a hold of him last year, and just couldn't. And I think someone had given me his number, but I tried to get him, but I never got him last year. I'm going to, and I'm saying if any Grenadian is listening now, they can call me and try to give me the number of Bernard. I'd really want to speak to him too, because I would like to get his perspective. I hope that he would speak to us, and also to a young guy I know, Peter David. He's an attorney in Grenada. He was one of the youngest person that was in the revolution. He was in Canada himself studying when Maurice Bishop sent for him. I want to speak to a guy they call Mr. Sam.
You have St. Lucians as well that you can talk to, like Earl Bousquet.
I spoke to Earl Bousquet some time ago last year,
or late
or late year before.
Dr. Jules as well.
Dr. Jules is so very busy. Sometimes I try to get hold of Dr. Jules,
Yeah.
And it's kind of very busy.
Right.
I spoke to this guy, Edwards of the credit unions in the region from St. Lucia. Well, he's
Edward, yes.
Yeah. And so I had him on this program some time ago. So I make it my business to identify with the necessary people of the region to see how they themselves can tell us about the yard. So I need to get someone from Antigua, someone from St. Kitts, and I have the contacts. It's just when they are able to do it, because we know we need to create that link between ourselves.
Yes.
So every one of us talking about let's go back to Africa. But for me, before we go back to Africa, can we really look at what we do in common to identify that of Africa?
Sure.
So in St. Lucia now, I know exactly what you all did, how you all did it. In Dominica, it's almost the same thing. There's not much of a difference. So I know maybe we came from the same slave plantation, from the same home in Africa.
Right.
All right, and we were placed in different locations on the slave plantation. But maybe, who knows? So some people will tell you the slaves from Jamaica, or those who came from those who came from Africa to Jamaica must have been from different locations. And maybe Trinidad too.
I hear all of that.
But for us to know the difference, for us to know that, I'm going to make it my business, in the Lakou, to get these people in the region to really help us.
That would be a great initiative.
Mm-hmm. So as I said, I spoke to St. Lucia already twice. I'm Edwards. I'm speaking to you. So I spoke to Grenada already. I'm going to speak to Grenada again. It's important.
Okay. Man, wonderful. This is a commendable initiative that you have taken on. And how long have you been producing this program now?
The Lakou is now going on its third year.
Okay.
It's going on its third year.
Great. But doing well.
Thank you. It's amazing. What really fills my heart is when the Monday comes and people would call me and tell me what a good program it was. I do my best. I do my best not to have any people calling in because sometimes they can die.
I do hope my dear friend Ophelia is tuned in. I do hope so. She's, I can't. When I speak of Dominica, I must mention her. She's a really, really dear friend.
Very early in the program, I had her on the program already.
She's a dear friend. Mm-hmm. She's a family member, I can say. Mm-hmm. So let me wish her the best, and all my friends who've been at the youth camp, especially Peter Coffey and my good university colleague, Dr. Spencer St. Louis.
Must have Sissy in-law Spencer Katana Chalma. Must have ça. So
okay.
Must have déjà créé Spencer pour dire Spencer. Créé CCI pour dire CCI. Mi on nom kapale kot Marie là. So attends ça qui a dit. Must siou ça fait.
But let me tell you.
And Major Johnson. Last time I saw his I know he's donating things to Dominica as well. He's still active at his age. I wish him the best, and I don't know if I'll lay eyes on him, but he was a great director, and all the other people I guess who are still alive they were part of the youth camp, and other people I met. I had some other friends I can't remember who I met at university, but Spencer was the one who stood out because we take come out, we connect, Yes, that's why I kind of ornament from you over the bridge.
All right, let me tell you where Spencer is. He has his office, his medical office, or his doctor's office in Kennedy's Avenue. That is close to the financial center. He's still in Dominica. And I know his office days are normally from 8:30 until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So he's still there. He's the man responsible at the hospital. Mm-hmm. He's the anesthetician. Yes, that's what. And he's still around. You can find him in Roseau.
Well, I can also say to you too, Primus, that Ophelia says good program. I am listening. C'est ça Ophelia dit. Pas moi qui dis Ophelia.
Like Monsieur Diequid. That's how I call her. That's the name I give her, the Diequid.
Comment
DA Queen, the DA Queen.
Oh, DA Queen.
DA Queen.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Mo feel money book you DA Queen.
Yes, well, Prisma, Primer, you.
Yeah.
Everybody call her the Queen of Songs. Moi, cherche ça. Moi, faut qu'elle ait un spécial blonde.
Right. Yeah, one of the. Yeah. It was a pleasure having you. I mean, I learned a lot from him, Cecil. I mean, my St. Lucian partners, you know how Dominica is. One of my favorite fellas. I mean, we had to make sure we took him out was Urgent, one of the great footballers. Urgent, he was playing in Portugal. Yeah, he was one of the most dangerous footballers. I mean, playing for St. Lucia. I mean, he was a great man. So I saw there's a good rivalry, both in cricket and football, whenever we play St. Lucia. We had another great man, I don't know, Edmonds. Edmonds was the goalkeeper in for St. Lucia at the time, in the 90s. Yeah, Edmonds, but he died.
I was never really a football fan as such, so I was more into cricket.
Yeah.
So how do you got cricket? I got Cardi. No, Tamapatan got Cardi.
Cardi, how is he?
Ignatius Cardi.
Ignatius Cardi.
Come here, yeah, this guy, I haven't seen him. I know at one time, but he's disappeared from the radar. You know, he was a very promising wicketkeeper batsman.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And he did. I mean, this guy. I apart from Findlay, I think he was the only one who would be inches away from the stumps.
Yes.
No matter how fast you are.
No matter how fast you were. Yes, I saw Cardi. He was really good.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know if he's on island or he's somewhere overseas. Yeah, but he was one of very promising cricketer. Very promising cricketer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
So as we come to the end, your last words.
Well, what else can I say that I have not said? I'm just happy that I was given the opportunity to speak about myself and my experiences as a broadcast journalist. And one thing I didn't mention was my farming practices. I'm a farmer, not because I am a trained agriculturist, but because I grew up with people who farmed, my mom and my stepdad. So I still farm. I'm into my root crops and my plantains and everything. So giving me the opportunity to speak about myself, about my accomplishments and my professional life and my experiences in Dominica and so on. I appreciate this. It's very appreciative of people like you who've given me that opportunity. I'm so happy that I was able to do this. And I'm still up and about, and I'm still I'm still able to give my services to my country. I love my community, and as I did mention earlier, that I am about to publish as the leader of the research team to document the history of the Ros Valley. That should be out sometime later in the year. So thank you so much, Cecil, for granting me that opportunity to speak about myself, and not just about myself, but experiences and what I accomplished, being who I am, and my experience in Dominica as well, and all the good friends that I've known and so on. That is, I'm grateful for that, and I will always be grateful. The only thing I keep saying that as long as I'm alive, I do pray that the Almighty will, if He sees it necessary, to grant me the ability to always reach out to help someone in need. That's all, at my age, that's all I really want to do. Nothing more, and that my family and my grandchildren are safe and blessed and protected, and that I can just live the rest of my life reaching out and helping and giving guidance. That's all. That's all I need to do. Nothing more.
I just want to say thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to interview you or to have a chat with you on the way that you were raised in St. Lucia, more so Jackmel in St. Lucia, and to give us some of the background information, wealth of information that you have given unto the listeners here tonight. So we are already, I'm sure, making some compilation of information that you have given to us, and I'm sure when writers decide to write about comparison of communities of various countries of the region, they might just come to us at DBS Radio to get that information, to make it even much easier for them.
Very well.
And so I really want to thank you for that opportunity given, so that we could have had that chat, we could have had that talk.
Thank you.
Really
You're very welcome.
To know about St. Lucia. So thank you very much.
The Almighty God bless you to continue doing the good job.
Thank you.
To keep this program going.
Thank you.
I think this would be a touchlight for a flabo or shal.
A shal.
For Dominicans and Dominica.
And for other countries, you know.
For other countries as well.
Yes, yeah. Because
I
think you know, when that idea was born, I remember this guy came to me and he wanted to do one program, and that is because I was doing a program about the communities, talking about Roseau, talking about, you know, just talking about communities. And this guy came to me, Mr. Major, Francis, and he wanted to come and do one program. So when he was through doing the program, I said to him the night, let us elevate that program and let us get about other communities and speak of other communities and other events. Or events in other communities, and we studied that, and then I decided that I was going to promote the lives of the people who would have made the community that they came from successful, and today we have seen the success story of the Lakou program. As a matter of fact, I can say out of that a restaurant has named their restaurant after the program, the Lakou, you know.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Isn't that wow?
Yes. You know.
This is wonderful.
So it's important. It's really important that we give the local man, the ordinary man who would not have gotten the opportunity to give their story. You know,
Yes.
we have gotten so many different stories from that 3 years of various people, you know, from different walks and different class, giving their success story. You know, I remembered one man by the name of Mr. Macmillan giving us his success story. Ordinary man, you know, walking without shoes to go to school every day, and today he is a successful businessman. You know. And it's important that we do those things. So again, thank you so very much, and I just want to wish you the best.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, all right.
You have a very pleasant evening, and God bless you. God bless you all.
Thank you. God bless you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
right. Yeah, bye-bye. Well, that's where we come to the end of another Lakou program, and it was so fascinating to really hear from another individual from another country who was able to really give us his piece and bit of his Lakou. I just want to say thank you so very much for that, and we will go right into the next program, our other program where we normally speak